to the advice of counsel. Mr. Harpootlian, you stated for the record the basis for your advice. Of course, a defendant's, yes, sir.
Your Honor, first of all the financial information, misdeeds are in the record, basically. I mean, the amounts, very specifically. So at this juncture, two things happen. One, he has not been convicted of anything in regard to financial crimes. So normally they couldn't ask him about those crimes because he hadn't been, he hadn't been convicted. You got to be a crime that carries a year or more, those kinds of things. It meets none of that. So then you go under 608 and it's character evidence. And it's going to be fair game.
So what they're discussing right now, it seems, is whether or not
but we disagree with
to allow
process whereby
Eric,
he couldn't come in unless he was
Alec
convicted.
to testify.
He takes the stand, and they're going to ask him extensively
whether or
about
not
each and every one
the
of these events.
prosecution is allowed to ask him about his financial crimes because
character assassination. This is what we warned about.
The defense is stating he hasn't been convicted of these crimes, so it shouldn't be permitted. They shouldn't be permitted to ask him. However, the judge is saying I've already
gives them 2 grounds now to argue
deemed this admissible in court.
And our advice was, had that information,
I mean, quite frankly, for the sake of everything, everyone's heard the financial
we would
stuff.
Be sitting here with no financial misdeeds in the record.
I just,
we believe
think they just need to focus. If Alec does get on the stand, which I will shit myself, you can write that down right now. Like I won't film it, but I'll let you know if I did. I probably would.
No forensic evidence whatsoever, no confession, no eyewitness.
I think they should give up all the detail stuff and just focus on, hey, I'm live, and just focus on that night, the night of the murders, and maybe like
influence the jury that he,
the day of
has
something
committed these financial misdeeds or misrepresented
maybe within 24 hours of the murders occurring. But that's what they're
jury, we're
talking about right now.
I'm going to mute. If he hasn't explained any
get rid of my black eyes,
that they will hold it against him. And again, it all goes back to your original ruling to motive. I'm not sure they're arguing motive after Mr. Tindley's testimony and after Dawes Cook's testimony, both of whom said there wasn't a storm coming on Thursday. That the 10th. So again, our advice would have been different had Your Honor not allowed. I mean, if you would strike all that testimony and tell them to disregard it, in all likelihood, would not put him on the stand or not advise him to take the stand. I just want to make that right.
Just restate what you've previously put on the record and which you have argued throughout the trial, and I certainly understand and appreciate that.
And it's compounded this new problem if he takes a stand. And we think, with all due respect, and I'm arguing what we argued a month ago, that what's going to happen is we're going to spend the next day or 2 or 3 the state going through the minute details of each one of these offenses. We've already, in my opinion, this is a Bernie Madoff trial. This isn't a murder trial. This is all about financial misdeed, not about.
No, that sounds like a good jury argument if you're the one to make the argument.
I'm not convincing you.
It's an argument that you can make to the jury. I've ruled on the issue, and I do not know what the questions that the state intends to ask. I cannot forecast the next 3 days, as you have just done, as to every minute detail the state will seek to introduce. And all rights are preserved as to any and all testimony and anything that is objectionable that you all wish to object to it. The court will rule when those objections are made.
Your Honor, I appreciate that. All we're saying is if they have carte blanche to go into the minute details and talk about who the victims were and do all of that and do that, it's going to take a week more, especially with our objections, and then have to redirect them on that. And haven't we wasted enough time on financial matters?
All right. I'll give you an opportunity to respond if you desire.
Your Honor, again, the court has ruled. I don't think I need to address it any further.
Yeah, when a defendant takes the stand and testifies, he has no right to set forth to the jury all facts which may be favorable without exposing himself to cross-examination. Whether or not a defendant testify is solely the right of that defendant. The court makes no recommendations pro or con. I have no role other than advising the defendant of his rights and to ensure that he understands his rights so that he will make an informed decision with regard to testifying after consultation with counsel and anyone else he might want to testify, consult with. Do you wish me to engage in that colloquy at this time with Mr. Murdaugh?
Your Honor, I think it would be good for you to engage in that colloquy now. We have one short witness before he would testify, if he continued to want to testify.
All right. Mr. Murdaugh, if you would come forward and stand in front of me, and Madam Clerk, if you will swear him.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. At this time, I'm going to explain to you certain of your rights. If you do not understand anything I say, please let me know, and I will explain it in greater detail. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, we have now reached the stage of the trial in which you are presenting your defense. And you have the right to claim the protections given to you by the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. This amendment states in part that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. And this means that you cannot be required to testify. You do, however, have the right to testify on your own behalf. However, no one can make you testify. Whether or not you testify is a personal right, and no one can waive this right except you. If you decide to testify, you'll be subject to the same rules that govern other witnesses, and you may be examined and cross-examined on any relevant issue in this case. If you decide to testify, the decision on your part must be freely, voluntarily, and intelligently made with knowledge of the protections given to you by the Fifth Amendment and the consequences of your decision to testify. As I understand it, you have no convictions involving dishonesty or false statements or for any crimes punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment. But as it relates to any other relevant issue as determined by the court, you may be examined or cross-examined on any relevant issue. Do you understand?
I do, yes, sir.
If you decide not to testify, I will instruct the jurors that they cannot give the fact that you did not testify any consideration whatsoever, and that there is to be absolutely no prejudice to you because you did not testify. It is left entirely up to you whether or not you testify. You may talk with your attorneys, Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Barber, Ms. Fox, family, friends, or anyone else, but the final decision will be left entirely up to you. Do you understand what I've explained?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you have any questions whatsoever as to what I've explained?
No, sir, thank you.
Yes, sir. And you've talked with your lawyers about whether or not you've testified. Mr. Harpootlian just suggested advice he's given to you. The court has no comment whatsoever as to whether you should or should not testify. But do you wish to confer with lawyers some more about whether or not you should testify?
No, sir, I don't need to talk to them anymore.
Have you made a decision as to whether you're going to testify?
Yes, sir.
All right, and what is your decision?
I am going to testify. I won't testify.
All right, very well, thank you.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, we'll have one short witness
Oh.
before Mr. Murdaugh.
Very well.
Quit muting me, microphone. Holy mother of God, he's going to fucking testify. Well, I truly believe this will help find him guilty. You know, I wonder if any of the jurors were allowed to watch anything to do with the boat crash, because
You will bring the jury.
with Netflix, because doesn't mention Paul and Maggie's murders. Well, fuck yeah, it did. Never mind. I hope maybe they accidentally heard it in the background. Trying to be Morgan's power of attorney while she's getting her hand up. As if you can actually do that. As if you can actually just say, hey, I'm her power of attorney with a competent person. Oh, I am man, mother, father, and all of us. I kind of hate these people. I kind of hate these people. Shut up about my mic being freaking unplugged. Stupid StreamYard. I'm in a foul mood again like I was before. You probably see my pit stain, so thanks, people, wherever you are, TikTok or otherwise. I have dark circles under my eyes and pit stains. You're welcome. That was for you. Is he going to go up there now? What's going to happen? They said one short witness. Who's the witness?
Thank you. Good morning. Day number 23. The defense's case, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Nolan Tootin.
Who?
Good morning. Watch your step. Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony?
If your sister needs my help,
will be the truth, the whole
just
truth,
let me
and
know.
nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You'll come to the witness stand and have a seat, please.
Hey, Pretend Fashionista, how are you? Good morning.
Sensitive, and you have to get right up on it.
I'm going to mute myself, be walking in and out, because we just want to hear this
Nolan
anyway.
Tootin, Tuten.
It's a Southern Gothic in real life,
Morning.
Pretend
Morning.
Fashionista.
Would you please tell the jury a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in Hampton County. Grew up around Paul and Maggie. I went to school at Wade Hampton. Played sports with Buster growing up, and just we're lifelong friends.
What do you do?
I work in the timber business.
And do you know Alex?
I do.
Okay. And how long have you known Alex for?
Pretty much my whole life.
Did you spend a lot of time with Alex and his family?
I did.
Okay. And how would you describe your relationship with Paul?
He was one of my best friends. Considered him like a little brother to me. We were really close.
How about tell the jury a little bit about Paul?
Paul's one of those guys that would, you could call him at the drop of the hat and he would come. He was, there for you always. He would call you nonstop all throughout the day, every day. And, he would do, whatever he could for you, whenever he could for you. And
How often did you talk to Paul?
every day.
Every day. How often did you see him?
A couple times a week, most weeks.
And when you saw him, where would y'all be?
It depended. He would come to my house. I would go to Moselle. I would see him on the boat. We would just go hunt together, fish together, just do whatever we really felt like doing.
Okay. And other than hunting and fishing, what else did you guys do together?
We hung around Moselle. We farmed at Moselle. You know, whatever we felt like doing, really.
And when you were with Paul outside doing these activities, did he have his phone with him normally?
Most times, yeah.
Okay. And did he ever put it down?
He did sometimes, not a whole lot. I mean, it was either in his hand or in his pocket, but if he had something in his hand, he would, you know, set it down either in the truck or somewhere close to him. I mean, it would be within reaching distance.
Okay. What was your impression from the time you spent with the family as to how they got along?
I mean, they all had a really good relationship, I felt like. I mean, when I was around, there was always kind of laughing and, you know, a good relationship, good family relationship.
Did you have a nickname for Alex?
Big Red.
Okay. And how would you describe the relationship between Paul and Alex?
They had a really good relationship.
Would you say that Alex was patient with Paul?
He was.
Now, you mentioned that you guys hunted together. Are you familiar with the types of guns that Paul had?
I was.
Okay. And did he ever use a 300 Blackout?
He did.
Okay. And what's your understanding of where he got that?
Buster and Paul got two for Christmas one year. One, Buster had a black one, Paul had a tan one, and they were at Moselle, and then Paul's went missing or, you know, got stolen or whatever happened to it. And then there was just the black one at Moselle that we used more or less.
Okay. When you were at Moselle, what'd you do with Paul?
Rode around, you know, played around at the house, messed around at the sheds. You know, we would go ride the buggies, ride in the truck, you know, go fish, go hunt, go farm.
When you rode around at Moselle, what vehicles would you ride in?
It really depended, honestly, what was closest to get into from the house. It was, you know, sometimes my truck, sometimes Paul's truck, sometimes golf cart, Ranger, whatever we felt like riding.
Okay. Did you ever ride in the black Ford F-150?
I did.
Okay. And are you familiar with where the kennels are located?
Yes.
At Moselle? Okay. And if you and Paul were at the house, would you guys typically walk to the kennels or would you drive down there?
We would never walk. We would drive or ride something.
Okay. And were there ever times where you noticed Paul with guns in his trucks on Moselle?
All the time.
Did he have the 300 Blackout with him in his trucks?
A lot of times, yes.
Okay. And were there ever guns left in the shed by the dog kennels?
They were sometimes, not a whole lot, but there were, you know, sometimes left there and then picked up later.
Okay. What about the hangar?
Same.
Now, Maggie. Tell me about Maggie.
She was she was a very sweet woman. She would, you know, do whatever. She treated me like I was one of her own. She was just really, really sweet woman.
And would she go down to the dog kennels?
She would.
Okay. And how would she get there?
It just depended really. She would drive her car sometimes. She would walk sometimes. She would ride her bicycle. She would ride a Ranger, a golf cart. It, you know, however she felt like getting down there.
Okay. Let's go to the day of June 7th.
Okay.
Walk me through that day.
That morning I got up and I talked to Paul either over the weekend or Friday or one of those days when we had talked about CB had sprayed the sunflowers. And so I'd gone out to Moselle that morning and rode by the sunflowers to see if they were actually dead yet or not. And I noticed that they were dead. So then, you know, Paul and I talked, I don't know, around 10 or 11 that morning and about kind of coming up with a plan about how to get them plowed up under and replanted. So then I went to work and stayed at work all day pretty much. We were supposed to go out that afternoon and start plowing the sunflowers under. And I got stuck at work late and talked to Paul throughout the day, and I wasn't going to make it that night. And so I went home after work. And then I got the call around 10:30 or so, 11, sometime around there, and came back to Moselle and you know, everything had happened.
When you talked to Paul that morning, what, if any, understanding did you have as to where he was?
He was in Okatee. He was working for John Marvin at the time.
Okay. And then you guys made plans to meet at Moselle that
That's
afternoon.
right. Yes.
Okay. when you called him on the way home, what, if any, understanding did you have as to where he was?
When I talked to him on the way home, he was driving from Okatee to Moselle when I spoke to him.
Where were you when you got the news about Maggie and Paul?
I was at home.
Okay. And did you go to Moselle?
I did.
Okay. Did you see Alex?
I did.
How would you describe him?
He was pretty distraught. He was, when I got there, he and I saw each other, and we both kind of walked towards each other, and he gave me a hug and just started crying and told me they were gone.
That maybe I'll have begged the court to tolerate.
So did this kid say he was supposed to be meeting Paul at the property?
Your plans to meet up with Paul on June 7th.
Right.
Was that plan to address the issue you had seen in with Sunflowers?
That's right.
Okay. No further questions.
But did he actually go?
Fire state.
Oh, good morning. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Doing well. Nolan, we've met a bunch of times, right?
Yes.
Prior to trial, we've met in Colleton, we've met elsewhere. We've had quite a few conversations. Is that fair to say?
We have.
And you've had a lot of conversations with law enforcement also. They were sometimes there at the meetings.
Yes.
You were as close a friend as Paul as there could be. Is that fair to say?
I feel like that. Yes.
And I just want you to say again, he was the kind of guy that if you needed something in the middle of the night, you could call him.
Yes.
Was he going to be there for you?
He was going to come.
Flat tire side of the road, Paul's there for you.
He was there.
You also, I think, and Maggie, I think you referred to her as a second mom.
I
to you.
did.
Kind of, they adopted you into the family. You were treated like one of the group. Is that fair to say?
That's right.
And what year did you graduate high school?
2014.
And what year was Paul at Wade Hampton?
He didn't go to Wade Hampton.
Oh, what year was he graduating high school? Sorry.
I want to say 17, maybe
So-
17 or 18.
So you were a little older than Paul.
That's right. He was the same age as my younger brother, Nate.
And your younger brother, I know we already heard, we saw, it's Nathan too,
That's
right?
right, yes.
And he testified previously in this trial.
That's right.
So you're
His brother's
in high
the
school
one that
was
drove
aligned
Alec
with
to the
Buster's.
airport
more
and worked for
Busters, and Paul was a little
PMPED.
younger.
That's right.
PMPED also.
I think you mentioned that Paul was an avid cell phone user.
I think they're twins,
Is that fair to say?
That's
but not sure.
He used it all the time.
Yep.
Which may be part of the reason why he was so responsive when you needed something, because he always was there to answer the call or respond to a text. Is that
That's
fair
right.
to say?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself someone that has a fair amount of knowledge about firearms?
I feel like it. Yes,
Are you an avid hunter?
I am.
And you've had a lot of experience with firearms yourself,
I have.
and a lot of experience with the family's firearms.
Yes, sir.
Gain kind of a knowledge of what people tend to use or favor.
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say that
He just confirmed it
well,
to the
before
judge
we
this
go there,
morning.
Let's talk about the 300 blackout. Paul's 300 blackout. I think you just testified to that they received as a Christmas gift.
Right.
Now, Buster's, when they received it, Buster's 300 blackout was what color?
It was black.
And Paul's 300 blackout was what color?
It was like a sand color.
And you hanging out with Paul, and I'm going to talk about somewhere in like 2017, 2018. Did you go to a Halloween party with Paul?
We did.
Did you actually ride with him?
From my recollection, yes.
And it wasn't uncommon for Paul to have his kind of favorite guns in the car with him. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
And on this occasion, when you went to this party, did Paul have that 300, his tan 300 blackout with him?
He did.
This is back in like 2017, 2018,
It was a while ago. Yes, sir.
before COVID.
That's right.
The new designation, before
That's right.
COVID, after COVID. And tell us what happened. What happened that night?
I mean, we were at a Halloween party and we had been around Moselle most of the day, and we left, and then later on, the gun was gone. The gun was missing. Whether whatever happened to it, we no longer had it.
So it was there before you went to the party, and then y'all come back and it's out of the car.
That's right.
Now this was a really nice rifle, right?
It was.
It was a fairly expensive rifle, and the scope on it is a very expensive scope.
That's right.
So it wasn't like it was misplaced. It was. Do you believe it was stolen?
I believe so. Yes.
All right. And then going to guns, did Paul have a shotgun that he favored?
He did.
Was it and have you paid attention to any of the trial?
I've watched some, yes.
And is it, without going ahead and rooting through the guns, is it that camo in color Benelli Super Black Eagle 3 that the state has in evidence?
That's right.
That's Paul's shotgun?
That was the one he favored the most, yes.
And then did Paul also have a 300 blackout on him at all times?
He did.
So what did Paul do after his rifle was stolen? What did he use then?
When his rifle was stolen, he more or less took Buster's as his own. So
he started using Buster's. Is that because Buster really didn't use that very much?
Buster was in school, either in Wofford or in Columbia. So Buster came to Moselle a fair amount, but Paul was there more, and so Paul just used it as his own.
And then Buster had a shotgun he'd favor. I think we'd already heard about it, but is it a Benelli Super Black Eagle Model 2?
That's right.
And do you know the differences between the Super Black Eagle models?
I do.
And I think your brother already testified to that, but there's markings on the shotguns that you can look at and tell if you know what you're looking for.
That's right.
And then I believe Alex favored a Super Black Eagle Model 1.
That's right. He either shot the 1 or the 2.
So we have 1, 2, and 3 models.
Right.
For the same Benelli Super Black Eagle, but models 1, 2, and 3.
That's right.
And those are all 12 gauges typically that was used
That's
as a kind of general use.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also mentioned that about guns being left down at the kennel area. You said it was occasional. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
They weren't stored down there, right?
That's right.
Permanently. Nothing was stored down there.
No, nothing was stored down there.
And it was usually, if guns were left, would it be mostly in just the hunting seasons?
That's right.
Okay.
It would either be during, the hunting seasons, or, if Paul was cleaning out his truck, he would.
And when are the hunting seasons for like deer and duck, and turkey? When are those hunting seasons?
Deer season is typically in the fall, sometime August to January. Duck season is, around Thanksgiving to the end of January, and turkey season is March 22nd to May 1st, somewhere around there.
Were you, and you spent a lot of time at Moselle. I think you already talked about that. Were you around before the, how many entrances and exits are there at Moselle, the property? Were you around before when there was only one entrance and exit? So when there was only one entrance and exit, the main entrance and exit, where was that one?
That was by the kennels.
Okay. And is that actually where the mailbox is?
That's right.
And I think packages are sent that way.
They would typically go to the shed, to the hangar.
And then at some point in the future, a second exit was created where some brickwork was done, sort of leading from the house. Is that accurate as well?
That is.
You all spent a lot of time at the kennel area, kind of the hangar kennel area.
We did.
It's kind of a good collection point for whatever y'all were doing, whether it was working on the heavy equipment there or hunting and getting ready for things. That's
correct?
A fair thing to say? It's a good collection point.
Yes, sir.
For y'all. And I think out there's also a processing shed for if you killed anything.
Yes, sir.
And if you all are down there and, say Maggie or Alex were at the house and they, obviously knew you were down there, would they tend to come drop by before they would leave just to see if y'all needed anything?
More often than not, yeah.
All right. And knowing Paul as well as you do, is it and we've heard a lot about him. Is it fair to say that he had a lifestyle that was just fairly unpredictable?
Absolutely.
I mean, he was traveling the state, whether it was Columbia, Charleston, the Low Country, wherever. He was everywhere, right?
That's correct.
And he actually kept clothes in many different places just for that reason, because he was such a traveler.
He did.
So you talk to him almost every day, right?
That's right.
But for those that maybe weren't so close to him, it would be fairly hard to even know where he was going to be on any given day.
That's right.
Unless you kept in frequent contact with him, right?
That's fair to say.
He was everywhere. Any given day during the week, who knows where he could be.
Mm-hmm.
Fair
That's
to
right.
say? All right. So I'm going to talk to you about June 7th, 2021. And that's the day you lost your best friend.
That's right.
And that's a tough day for you. Is that right?
It is.
You talked to Paul that day on the phone
I did.
in the morning and afternoon times. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And I know you just testified to it, but walk me through again, if you wouldn't mind. I believe y'all were talking about the sunflowers. They died.
We were.
And you often helped out on the farm. Is that also fair to say?
I did. Yes.
Meaning farm related stuff, tilling the ground and planting seeds and all that stuff.
That's right.
You were pretty active in the maintaining of the duck ponds and the corn fields for the hunting purposes too, right?
That's right.
So if Paul needed something, he'd call on you.
That's right.
He'd call on you to help out.
Yes.
And is that what happened on leading up to and on June 7th?
Yes, it was. He knew that I was riding by, because typically when you spray something, it takes a couple days before it actually takes effect. So it happened. CB sprayed them, I want to say Thursday or Friday. So we really couldn't get a good idea of what was actually done, the harm that was actually done, until a few days later. And I was going to be riding by Moselle that morning to go to work. So I just swung in there to check on them and see what it was, where we could come up with a game plan on what to do.
And you had pretty free use of the property, meaning you could show up and come and go as you please. That wasn't weird, right?
That's right.
So the fact that you went there that morning to check on stuff, that's actually pretty normal
That's right.
for you. And so you show up on that morning and check the sunflowers, and they're dying. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So the decision was made that y'all would have to. And why do you need sunflowers? What's the purpose of those?
They attract doves. We plant them, kind of corn, sunflowers in the dove field, to have dove hunts.
So it's important for hunting purposes, it's important to maintain a dove field. You call it the dove field.
That's
or
right.
the sunflower field.
Yeah, it's a good attractant.
So the decision made then to till the field and replant the sunflowers.
That's correct.
It wasn't too late in the year, in the season. You could still get some good growth out of it.
That's right.
And this is something you're pretty familiar with and you've done a number of times before with Paul.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what do you relay to Paul then?
I talked to Paul, told him that they were in fact dying and we had to restart. So he and I had talked about coming up with a game plan, meeting up that afternoon at Moselle to go ahead and get the tractor hooked up and begin plowing them under.
And ultimately, you weren't able to make it that day. Is that
That's
true?
correct.
Okay. What did you have going on?
I got hung up at work around the Columbia area.
So the plan then became we're just gonna do it later,
That's
right?
right.
We'll do it sometime later in the week.
Yes.
Now, leading up to these events, you received a Snapchat from Paul around 7 p.m. Is that right?
Sometime around there. Yes.
Sometime in the evening time.
That's right.
And tell us what that Snapchat's like a video image that someone can send you.
That's correct. Yes.
And tell us about what that Snapchat was.
It was a video of the John Deere Highboy sprayer. One of the cylinders on the back to spread the boom to spray was leaking pretty bad. So he was sending me a video to show me how bad it was leaking.
Okay. And a tiller is a piece of farm equipment. Is that correct?
What is it?
Sorry.
Repeat your question.
You said a tiller? Is that
The
is
high
it-
boy.
High boy. Is that a piece of farm equipment?
It is.
And is that the thing you would use then to plow the fields?
That's what we would use to spray.
Spray. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. And it was leaking some sort of fluid, meaning it was maybe broken.
That's right.
All right. Now you've in all the times we've met, the number of times, did you have a chance to listen to what we call it, kind of the kennel video?
I did.
And did you when listening to it, did you identify the voices on that video?
I did.
Having known the family, what voices did you hear on that video when you
Paul,
heard it?
Miss Maggie in it, Mr. Elliott.
All right, down at the kennel area too. If you're down there at nighttime, I assume you've been down there around the nighttime, the hangar kennel area. It's actually fairly well lit area if the lights are all turned on. Is that
That's
true?
correct.
So not only is there the hangar lights inside the hangar, but then there's lights on the outside of the hangar as well.
That's right.
Is that true?
Yes.
And is it true then also that the kennels have lights, both fan lights and overhead lights?
That's correct.
So if you're down there in the middle of the night, even though there may not be any, street lighting or anything like that, the kennel area and the hangar are all brightly lit with like fluorescent lighting.
Yes, sir.
And would you be able to see the lighting if you were at the Moselle house? Would you be able to look down if it's nighttime? Would you be able to look down and see the well lit area?
You could, yes.
All right, so we're on June 7th. What's the last communication you have with Paul?
That phone call.
And
Phone
you
call
go to
and
bed.
Snapchat.
Sorry, go ahead.
The phone call and the Snapchat.
And you then go to bed that night thinking it's just any other night. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I think you testified to it, but you were woken up at what time?
It was around 10:30. Between 10:30 and 11, my mom had called me, and she had heard something had happened at Moselle. So I tried to call Paul and text Paul and didn't get a response. So I got in the truck and rode over there as fast as I could.
And at the time, were you living fairly close by?
I was living closer to Alameda. It was probably a 20 to 25 minute drive to Moselle.
When you arrived at the scene, what entrance did you go to initially?
Initially, I was coming down Moselle Road, and I noticed all the first responders over towards the kennel area. And so I pulled in there, and they wouldn't let me in. So then I backed up and came in through the brick columns and made my way around. And
when you arrived, what did you observe?
Oh, when I got there, there were a lot of first responders out, and I could see two bodies laying, one by the corner of the shed and one by the feed room door, and they had sheets over them.
And by the time you arrived, law enforcement had already cordoned off the area.
They had.
But you could, where the tractor equipment was housed, you could kind of stand around back there.
That's correct.
And even though it's set further back, you could still see sort of the scene.
Yes.
Who was there with you when you arrived?
When I arrived, it was myself, Alec, Randy, Ronnie Crosby, Mark Ball, and I think that's it at the time. People started coming when I got there. A lot of people started coming, showing up.
And I know you testified to it, and it's obviously understandable, but everyone's pretty upset, right?
Yes.
And when you did you have a chance then to interact with Alex?
I did.
And is he here today?
He is.
Is he sitting at council table right there in between his lawyers?
Yes.
And I think you said you hugged. Is that right?
We did.
And what thing did he repeat to you twice?
The boat wreck. The boat wreck. The boat wreck.
That's the thing he said to you.
That's right.
And did he also ask you to get in touch with Rogan?
He did.
And you know Rogan Gibson.
I do.
Friends with him as well.
Yes, sir.
So the two things he says to you there is two of the things he says is the boat wreck. I think he said the effing boat wreck. Is that right?
He did.
And get in touch with Rogan.
Yeah, it was a little while later, but yes, he asked me to call Rogan.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence.
Redirect.
You mentioned that Paul would clean his cars out down by the kennel area, his
Right.
trucks. Are you aware that he took his truck in to be serviced
I
that
was,
Friday?
yes.
Okay. And he cleaned that out before he went?
Yes.
And if you're at the house in Moselle,
Mhm.
can you see in detail at night what's happening at the kennels?
You could just see the lights and you could tell that the lights were on and you could see the roof, but that's really about all you
So
could
just
see.
the roof and just the lights?
That's right.
Okay.
You noticed something was down there, but you weren't really able to tell exactly what it was.
Okay. And going back to June 7th, you went out there in the morning for the Duffield.
That's right.
Okay. And did you see the black Ford F-50 up at the house?
I did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Well, thank you. You may step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we have you go to the jury room for a short break. Please do not discuss the case.
Please bear with me.
Everyone be seated.
What are we going to talk about, sir?
Mr. Harpootlian, do you need any additional time to confer with Mr. Murdaugh?
He indicates he doesn't need to talk to me. Hurts my feelings, but we don't.
Oh, shut up, Harpootlian.
And
Shut up.
However, Your Honor, he does need
Fuck up.
to visit the restroom before we start this process.
So we can do
Recess about 10
some
minutes.
pills. Sorry. So he can shit himself. All right. I put some things up there. I'm sure you guys can read, but just in case you missed it. The person who is testifying, I'm pretty sure his name is Nolan. They're brothers. I have read. I think they're twins. Obviously not identical, but regardless, they're brothers. So as it states above, Nolan's brother is Nathan. And Nathan testified last week, I believe it was. Nathan is a police officer in Walterboro currently. He gave like an excellent testimony, was not waived by Pork and Beans defense. So Nathan, it sounds like they were all friends with Paul, but Nathan worked for PMPED, which was the law firm where Alec worked. I mean, they're still together. They've just pretty much kicked Alec out. They're now called the Parker Law Group, but even Randy, his brother, is still there at the firm, which I find fucking weird, but whatever. Nathan worked for PMPED. He testified that he would often pick up checks from Palmetto State Bank, which is the bank where Russell Lafitte worked, Alec's friend, who was like a co-conspirator. He's again been found guilty on 6 federal charges of, mishandling clients' funds, Alec's clients' settlement funds. So Nathan testified that he worked there, things that he witnessed. He also testified that he drove Alec to the airport when Alec, and I assume Buster, but only Alec was in the car, when they went to the Florida Keys, not that long after the murders. I do think that's weird also. I don't know if it was some pre-planned trip, because I think it was in July, so maybe it was like a pre-planned 4th of July thing. And I mean, as much as I want to sit there and say I wouldn't do that either, I feel like it could be very difficult to be in your town, in your home, with all these similar surroundings of your loved ones. You just kind of like, as they say in therapy, you've got a glass full of water and you can hold it and it's not heavy. But maybe after like 5 hours of holding it, your arm is like numb, about to fall off. You don't let go of the water. You just set the water on the table for a minute and give your arm a rest. And then when it's time, you pick it back up again. So just putting the water down for a second. I'm sure they probably didn't go off and have like a blast. Perhaps it was just a mental break. But anyhow, the guy that was just on the stand, his brother, took Alec to the airport, and he testified that on the drive to the airport, Alex, and this is after the murders, of course, that Alec was just honed in on clearing Paul's name. I'm just going to clear Paul's name. I'm just going to clear Paul's name. And as people have reported before, if Paul was no longer alive, there's no criminal case. So they have settled a civil case outside of that. I'm sorry. Again, I watched 2 episodes last night. The things that these people have had to deal with, the things that these kids have had to deal with. Do you know that not one SLED officer, police officer, anybody called Mallory Beach's parents to let them know what happened? There's even body cam footage of someone talking to Anthony Cook's parents and her saying, has anybody called them? Feel like they need to know. I have their numbers, but I don't want to be the one to call them. And the police officer said, no, we don't really want to do that until we, know something for sure. Meanwhile, it's a boat crash. She's missing. All the other kids, minus Anthony, don't want to cry. Everyone else that was accounted for, minus Anthony, were at the hospital being treated for wounds and otherwise. And so people knew. All of those kids called their parents right away. Yes, Julie, he's testifying. Can you believe it? I literally said I would shit my pants. I would not film it, but I would tell you if I shit my pants when he testified. And I have to say, I did not, but figuratively, I did. But, and then didn't let the family, oh, sorry, on the body cam, they're sitting there saying, no, we don't want to call the parents until we absolutely know something. I mean, I think we absolutely know she was in a boat crash. And we absolutely know she's not accounted for. They drove all the way there, didn't even know where to go. I'm not sure who called them and let them know. I may have missed that detail in the documentary, but on the body cam footage, again, we wouldn't want to, I think they said something like mess things up or have things be interfered with. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm blown, like, again, I feel like I've mentioned a little bit. I feel like there's enough out there now. The people who are named to that documentary, DNR, SLED agents, it's kind of creepy to have maybe seen these people before in various situations and go, oh, I've been close to monsters. That's so delightful. I know we're probably supposed to save some of this. I'm going to be, I believe I said tonight, watching the Netflix documentary for those who can't get into Netflix, but I'm just, I thought I knew how bad it was. I'm fearful for these people, and to know a little bit more and to see these people, to know Alec's going to sit up there, to know that he went to the nurses as Mallory Beach was having surgery on her hand and said, hey, I need to go in there. I represent her and I'm her power of attorney. Where can you just say the words, you're someone's power of attorney, and that happened? First of all, it didn't. I haven't watched the last episode because I was trying to watch it all with everyone, and I couldn't wait. I mean, I'll rewatch it again, but I haven't watched the last episode. It's hard to digest. It's really hard to digest. I'm so proud of Morgan, Paul's ex-girlfriend. I'm very fearful for her. Morgan, Miley, Janine, Mandy, Liz. And let me tell you something. My perspective, don't go to Fitz News to get information. If you hear about Fitz News, make your own conclusions as to whether or not they're tied into stuff as well. Jealousy is a bitch. And I should know because I am a bitch. Oh. But the thing is, and I have so much of a like psychological, oh, my stomach's growling, sorry. I think the only reason that some of these people spoke out, to include Morgan, if I had to speculate, is because they're not originally from here. If you go back and hear, which I heard Gloria Satterfield 911 call back on the Mandy's Murdaugh Murder podcast well over a year ago. And it was a weird 911 call, and that comes up in the documentary too. I believe the 3rd episode. Although I believe a lot of the women in the state, perhaps allegedly, speculatively, opinions, everyone's got one, like assholes. Although I think they are and seem to be victims of intimidation and falling in line and whatever. I told you, it's freaking weird when I go to a party around here. Men go in one room, females go in the other. And I'm not one of these people like, oh, I only hang out with guys. No, but I also don't only hang out with girls. Like, if I'm having a conversation with someone and we're having a drink and we go to the next room and I walk in the room, there's only dudes there, whatever. I'm going to keep having a conversation. It's fucking weird, I'm telling you. Learned not to do that, awkward stares. Okay. Again, although I think they're victims to perhaps being trapped in a way of life that for a time there may not have been a way out of. I think a lot of them are part of the problem. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying being hit or anything like that. That is not part of anybody's problem but the person who's throwing hands. But when you sit up and are out in public, a trial, whatever, and you keep saying, he was a good kid. And you've witnessed people being emotionally abused, physically abused, and you still sit there and say it. You don't have to say anything. If you're scared, you don't have to say anything, but you also don't have to lie and act like someone's a good person when they're not. Holy fuck, I cannot believe this is about to happen. I'm glad it's only 10:30 because I don't know how my kids will get home from school today.
Oh, you do. Absolutely.
I'm going to see what Mandy Matney's doing. Probably shitting themselves as well.
You may bring the jury.
Don't trust your soul to no backwoods southern boy. No. Someone straight up, when Reba McEntire came to Greenville, I know it was at least a year ago. I don't know if it was 2. I think I tagged Mandy Matney because there's like a TikTok that came up when that song came up. And they're like, don't trust your soul, no backwoods Southern lawyer. Someone screamed out, Alec Murdaugh! And I tagged her. I was like, did you see this? She's like, no. Dude, seriously, I might. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to cry and I don't even know these people. But I feel like I don't know, man. Again, it might be interesting to see. Fuck you, microphone. Might be telling me my mouth shut. So I'll just keep my mouth shut. Said what I've said in my Discord, which is nothing. I heard that. I feel like it goes to show, like, though, how much of a responsibility I think everyone who's on the side of the truth feels an obligation, knowing that if he weren't the judge here, it could fuck you, microphone. Some other corrupt judge would be up there, and perhaps this would go a different way. Again, I've said it before. I do not think he's going to be found guilty. Well, we'll see after his. But and I kind of believe his testimony may be a last-ditch effort to intimidate any jurors up there that he needs to intimidate. I would be surprised if he were found guilty. I thought we would have a mistrial way before this, or definitely a not guilty verdict, either because of intimidation or there's perhaps still reasonable doubt. He's like a cute grandpa. I want to hug him. What are we doing? All right, I was going to see if Mandy and... I'm shaking. Yeah, someone even tweeted under Mandy and Eric Bland. I'm so nervous. I can't imagine how you guys must feel. Hey, I don't normally at them, but I'm gonna. Forgive me. My train of thought's so horrible. I don't even remember what I say. What is typical in older generations? Like honor and duty? Duty, God, even. Oh, really? Again, I was raised in the South, but everybody was paycheck to paycheck or less where I come from, so it was hard to try to... We didn't have separate rooms to hang out in. What are we doing? I really have to pee. So one thing in the documentary, I'm kind of spoiling things a little bit, sorry, but Paul's ex-girlfriend Morgan, SLED came to get DNA samples and hair samples and whatever from her. And after Paul and Maggie were murdered, and she said, do not overlook Alec Murdaugh. And she even said, I absolutely believe he would kill his wife and son. What are we doing, people? All right, I'm so sorry. I was going to try to wait until there was some noise, but I really have to pee. So, TMI, and I will be, said the clerk. I'm thinking of Mallory, of Anthony Cook, of especially since that sketch of him, or of someone who looked damn close to him from the roadside shooting incident. So is Alec coming up right now? Or is it another witness?
Yeah.
That wasn't a juror out there, was it?
Ma'am, you will not be able to sit.
I hope that wasn't a
Cannot sit
juror.
You cannot sit in the jury box.
Oh, okay. That's awkward. All right. I'll be right back.
You may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, wishes to take the stand.
Watch your step. Yes, ma'am. You'll place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. You swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You'll have a seat on the witness stand. Adjust that microphone. And if you don't mind stating your full name again and spelling your last name.
I'm Alec Murdaugh, Murdaugh. Good morning.
I washed my hands. Piece of shit. You're a piece of
On
shit.
June 7th,
Don't cry, cause shit
2021,
can't.
you take
So
this
don't.
gun or any gun like it and shoot your son Paul in the chest in the feed room at your property off Moselle Road.
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take this gun or any gun like it and blow your son's brains out on June 7th or any day or any time?
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take a 300 blackout such as this and fire it into your wife Maggie's leg, torso, or any part of her body?
No,
The
I did not.
fucking disrespect.
Shoot a 300 blackout into her head, causing her death.
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime. Ever.
Mr. Murdaugh, is that you?
We can all go
On
home.
the kennel video at 8:44 p.m.
Before
on
it would have
June
been case
7th,
closed.
the night Maggie and Paul were murdered.
It is.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was.
Did you lie to SLED Agent Owen and Deputy Laura Rutland on the night of June 7th and told them that you stayed at the house after dinner?
I did lie to them.
Did you lie to Agent Owen and Agent Croft on the follow-up interview on June 10th that the last time you saw Maggie and Paul was at dinner?
I did lie to them.
And in the interview,
It's mixed with Geechee.
did you tell Agent Owen and Agent Crawl?
Those are the people they
lie to
stole.
them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes.
Alec, why did you lie?
Because
to
I'm
Agent
a
Owen,
piece of
Agent Croft, and Deputy
garbage.
Rutland about the last time you saw Maggie and Paul?
As my addiction
Oh,
evolved
fuck
over
you.
time,
Oh,
I would get in these situations and
you.
circumstances where I would get paranoid.
that's
thinking.
disrespectful to
And
people
it
who
could
are
be
struggling.
anything that triggered it. It might be a look somebody
Fuck
gave me.
you.
It might be a reaction somebody had to something I did. It might be a policeman following me in a car. That night, June 7th, after finding Mags and Paul, don't talk to anybody without Danny with you. All my partners were just repeatedly telling me that. I had a deputy sheriff taking gunshot test from my hands. I'm sitting in a police car with David Owen asking me about my relationship with my wife and my son. And all those things coupled together after finding them.
All the more reason to be completely honest.
Distrust
You
spread,
suspect, they're suspecting you.
caused me to have paranoid thoughts. Normally,
So does guilt, bitch.
when these
Sorry, hi,
paranoid thoughts would
Christophe
hit me,
always.
I could take a deep breath real quick.
I
Think
swear to
about
God.
it, reason my way through it, and just get past it really quickly. On June the 7th, I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't think I was capable of reason. And I lied about being down there.
Over his bullshit, I just want to say, Mouse Pals for Mallory
And I'm
Beach.
so sorry that I did.
Glorious gifts for Gloria Satterfield.
I'm sorry to my son Buster. I'm sorry to Grandma and Papa T.
God bless Morgan. Fuck you, Buster.
I'm sorry to
God
both
bless
of our
Anthony,
families.
Connor, Miley. God bless Mallory's family.
Most of all, I'm sorry to Max
Blanca,
and
Michelle,
Papa.
Marion.
I would never intentionally do anything
Intentionally.
to hurt either one of them.
Fuck you. Fuck you. I should probably not be streaming. Fuck you.
Ever. Ever.
Did you continue lying after that night? Did you not?
But once I lied, I continued to lie. Yes, sir.
Why?
You know, oh, what a tangled web we weave. But once I told a lie, and I told my family,
That's truthful.
I had to keep lying.
This is the man on trial for the murders. He's testifying. Or whatever the fuck you call
Alex, tell the
bullshitting
jury
all over the place.
What happened on the evening of
So fucking
June
disrespectful.
7th, starting when you met with Paul?
I'd been at work that day, a fairly normal day. You mean start in the morning or?
Sure, start in the morning.
Sure, start with
It's
every
regular.
detail
Maggie was
so
leaving to
the
go
prosecution can
out
pick
of
your ass
town.
apart.
She was going to a doctor's appointment, and she had some stuff to do at Edista, where she was having some work done on our house at Edista. But Maggie was there that morning. She went to leave, and she told me she was doing these things. I always always asked Maggie to come back home and stay with me. But anyway, Maggie had left. She did her thing. I went to work, did work. I learned from Paul that
Thursdays are the only freaking day
Paul,
that I wouldn't
my
be
son
able to get
Paul,
down
my
there
son
due
Paul
to
heard it.
childcare
Yeah.
issues. So,
Your name for him was Paw Paw.
and it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, no, we
confirmed
called him
until
Papa.
this morning.
Go
So,
ahead, sorry.
And
but I'm kind of glad I'm not.
I mean, Buster, Maggie, I called him Paul Paul or Paul Terry, but Mags called him Paw Paw. Buster called him Paw Paw. A lot of people called him Paw Paw. But anyway, I learned about I had known that CB, the guy that worked for us, had sprayed the sunflowers. I knew about that, but I'd been out of town. I didn't know they were dead. Paul let me know they had died. So we had to replant the dove field. That's how dove field, which the dove field is just it's a big social part of having property. People would come and it's just a social big part of it. So the dove field was a big deal. So when the sunflowers got killed, we knew they were dead. Paul was coming home. And I learned that early.
Please tell
Monday
us,
morning.
everyone, who socialized at the Dove Fields.
And,
Were there any SLED agents, judges, attorneys,
and we'll
senators?
catch back up, but at some point in
Were
time,
there?
did you meet up with Paul?
Yeah, after work, I met Paul at the property.
And we're going to backfill and talk about more of the day, but. I
Forgive
just
me,
wanna focus in
DNR
on that
agents, were
evening
any
right
of them there?
Okay.
When Paul gets to the property, what do y'all do?
First thing we do is we go to the dove field and we look at the dove field and
Hang on. How'd you get to the dove field?
he had come in my brother's truck.
Was it through an
He got
ATV?
in my son Buster's black pickup truck. We called it Buster's truck or the black pickup truck. You've heard it called too, but I call it Buster's truck.
Okay, so you're in Buster's truck and you go to the dove field. Tell the jury what else.
Well, that's the first thing we do. We go to the dove field and we look, and it was clearly, it didn't, you could tell they were, you could tell they'd been sprayed and you could tell they were dead. They might have still had a tiny bit of light, but they were dead. So we knew that. So we knew we had to replant the whole field. So that didn't take but a second. But after that, Paul, we just rode the property. We spent time together. We rode around and we spent time together on the property.
Did you go to the duck pond?
Oh yeah, we went to several food plots. We went to Single Oak Stand, we called it, which is across the road. I know we went to the Bridge Stand. We went to the duck pond where we stayed for a minute. And
Did you,
I can remember the duck pond specifically because I had helped Paul plant the dove field and the corn in the dove field. So sunflowers, corn. And I had helped him plant the corn in the dove field. Paul had planted the duck pond by himself, and he's making a really big deal to me about how much better the corn was doing in the duck pond than it was in the dove field. We stayed there for a little while. We were at the cabin for a little while. We rode around the cabin looking at it.
They did have so many vehicles, probably had to distinguish
It's
white
just
boy,
a little small, it's truly a
chubby.
cabin.
I don't
It's
fucking know.
It's a 4-room.
I hate them. Sorry.
Structure. It's got a little living area, a little kitchen. It's got 2 little bedrooms and 1 little bathroom. And that's what you've heard talk about where the kids stayed some summers. And
is that what the jury has seen? Some overhead pictures? It's right there on Moselle Road?
yeah, it's right up on Moselle Road, and it's very close to the driveway that goes to the shop and the kennels.
Did you spend any time at the shop, you think?
Oh, yes. The shop was I mean, that was sort of the hub. That was the main place. If you weren't at the house, you might be out going to this field or this food plot or this duck pond or this part of the river, but the shop is where the kennels were located. You know, you were always there. Something was always going on there. You're always doing something there. That's where all the tools were. That's where all the equipment was kept. I mean, that was the main hub.
Right.
And so we were there that day. I mean, there was a point in time where we unloaded a bulldozer that had been on a different part of the property. It was on a trailer. We unloaded it and sprayed it down real quick. That was just one of the many things we did that day.
One of the things the jury's seen, Alec, is a Snapchat video of you and doing something with a tree. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And so what was happening there?
That's just part of when we were riding. That particular location where that was is at a food plot that we called Sawtooth Oaks, and it was named that because there were some sawtooth oaks that were planted there that you can't see in the picture. But what that tree is, at all these food plots, there's an area where it's not as big as a field, but it's like a field where you plant vegetation for wildlife. Like it might be cowpeas or soybeans, but you plant, and then there's a feeder to attract deer. Then we planted these little fruit trees.
No one gives a shit. I understand he's doing this to add confusion and chaos, but fucking no one gives a shit.
It had fallen over. I had straps on it. I had strings on it that were holding it up. One of the strings popped. I undid the other string, and it was falling over, and Pawpaw was laughing at me trying to get it back upright. And it was just a fruit tree that I'd been dealing with for years. And it wouldn't stand up straight.
And were you and Paul having a good time at that point?
Oh yeah, I forgot that's my cue. I need to cry.
You could not be around Pawpaw. You could not be around him and not have a good time.
Oh really? Ask Morgan.
Were you close to Paul?
You couldn't be any closer.
The underage teenager you partied with.
And I and Buster and I were in awe. He's just wonderful.
Did she have a good time every time?
And it's one of the things you enjoyed doing together was just riding the property?
I love doing anything with Pawpaw. It's an absolute delight. But yeah, one of the things, I mean, Paul's passion. Paul was passionate about a lot of things, but that property was really a passion of his. I mean, he loved to work it. He loved to work with fields. He loved to work with food plots. He loved to hunt. I mean, he'd work on the roads. I mean, he would work on all of it. I mean, he would work on the structure, and he worked on the whole property. It was his passion.
So on the evening of the 7th, jury's been inundated with data from various different sources, but
sure,
just ballpark. Can you, knowing what we know now after reviewing everything, but roughly when do you remember Paul getting there and you getting there and starting to ride the property?
Now that I've had the benefit of seeing all of these records,
and knowing what they have on me,
I believe a little bit before 7:00, and I got home a little bit before him. I think the details had been that I got home around 6:42 or 6:45 or something like that, and Paul got there, very quickly thereafter.
And then
by 7:00.
So you rode the property for a while. Do you remember when Maggie arrived?
Yeah, it was later than that. It was 8 or after 8. I think it was after 8 and looking at the records, a little bit after 8.
And do you remember her arriving or where you were when she arrived?
I believe that I was at the shop when she came through, which would not be unusual for her having been away. If Blanca had gotten the mail or somebody had gotten the mail, maybe not. But if somebody had not gotten the mail, it would be perfectly normal for her to pull through there. And I believe she did pull through there that day. And Paul and I were at the shop, I believe.
And then what did you do after Maggie arrived?
Maggie went to the house, and I know that. But shortly after, however, I learned that Maggie got home, I went to the house when Maggie got home, and I left Paul at the shop.
So, and what'd you do when you got to the house?
I saw Mags, talked to Mags, and I took a shower.
The clothes that we saw in that Snapchat video was that the clothes you had at work that day?
Yes, those are the clothes I had on at work that day.
And the jury's seen you in those clothes and what's on June 7th. How tall were you and how much did you weigh?
On June 7th, well, I'm a hair over 6'4", right at 6'4". On June the 7th, I was about 265 pounds, 264, 265.
And this was in June 7th.
Yes, sir.
You know, when you're outside riding around and do you get hot and sweaty?
Absolutely. I mean, Paul and I had done some things. We unloaded the bulldozer, cleaned the bulldozer. We'd fooled around. Yeah, I mean, I sweated. I was heavy, and taking prescription pills also makes you sweat worse, or at least taking oxycodone makes you sweat more than you normally do.
So was it
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
Not at all.
Why'd you kill them?
And that, after you took a shower, what did you change into?
I changed into the clothes that you've seen in this trial, shorts and the shirt.
I changed into, I can't
When you got
remember
out of the shower,
the right answer.
you
Help
changed
me,
clothes. What'd you do next?
Jimbo. Help me.
I went back out where Mags and Pawpaw were, and
What were
for
they
dinner.
doing? What's going on?
Mags had, as you've heard, Blanca had prepared dinner, but it had been cooked earlier. Mags had fixed. I know Mags had fixed mine and her plate because I didn't fix a plate. She may have fixed Pawpaw. Pawpaw was eating, and Pawpaw was almost done eating by the time I got back out, which also wasn't unusual. I mean, Pawpaw was always on the go. I mean, he never sat still, and he'd sit down to eat, but then he's going on to his next item.
And
So then Maggie and I ate.
and you all eat at the table? Do you eat at the den? What's your normal habit?
We would do both, but I mean, when we ate at the table, it was really sort of more formal or not formal, but just more of an organized thing. What we would normally do on a regular evening is we would eat in the den in front of the TV. And that's where we ate that day. I ate on the couch, the table. Maggie had a little a TV tray that she kept over there, and Pawpaw would usually sit in a recliner and eat off of the ottoman.
It was irritating anybody else that he'd want to say Paul. I'm sure that's planned.
TV, if we were in the house, the TV was on.
But shut the fuck up.
So what happened next, Alan?
Pawpaw moved on doing whatever he was doing. I don't know if he was in the gun room doing something, or he was in his room doing something, or he was outside doing something. I actually thought he'd gone to the shed, but in looking at the shop, but in looking at the benefit of having these records that we have, I know he was still at the house or somewhere around the house doing something, but he wasn't in there with Maggie and I. But Maggie wanted to go to the kennels, and
Psychopath, rich people things.
On the couch where I was sitting, Maggie wanted to go to the kennels, and she asked me to go, and I didn't go at that time. I didn't want to go.
Why didn't you want to go?
It was hot. I just had a shower. I knew I'd end up doing more work, sweating more, and the dogs is always a chaotic scene, and I just didn't want to go right then.
Well, let me ask you, what had you done
I had to load my gun first.
like Friday and Saturday and Sunday?
I had to convince them to get on the
Start with
ATV.
Friday or
Yeah.
go backwards.
Yeah, start with Friday.
All right, on that.
Just briefly.
So 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. So June the 4th, my dad was.
He
in
can
the
count
hospital
backward
in
and forward.
Savannah, Georgia.
Good for
at
him.
Memorial
Don't disrespect
Hospital.
Savannah.
And I went down.
Don't
to
even
visit
say
him
it.
Friday afternoon.
Stick with Charleston.
And I stayed with
Don't
him
disrespect Savannah.
in the hospital. I spent the night there. You know, he was real sick. I mean, he was having a hard time.
Did you get much sleep Friday night?
No, I mean, I had a real sweet nurse found me. At first, there was just a hard chair in there like this, but a nurse found me a soft chair, sort of like a recliner. So, I mean, I'm sure I slept, but I didn't sleep. You know, I didn't get a night's sleep. No, sir.
And then Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday, we had plans with Buster and Brooklyn. Y'all have heard about Brooklyn. It's Buster's wonderful little girlfriend. And Max and I had plans with them to meet them in Columbia.
Does that mean she chose the line?
South Carolina.
Is that what wonderful means?
It was a regional baseball tournament. And South Carolina was playing Virginia, I believe. So when I got back from Savannah.
Don't say it.
Met up with Mags. At some point, we headed to Columbia. So, I mean, there wasn't a lot going on in between there. We headed up to Columbia and met Bus in Brooklyn.
And did you stay in Columbia Saturday night?
We did. We went to the ball game, and I remember it was an evening game. We went pretty early and tailgated. Maggie had reconnected with a college friend who coincidentally had married a college friend of mine.
Oh my God.
And they had a son that played for Carolina. He was the first baseman.
Well, look at here.
A really good little player. And we met them and tailgated with them. And it was a lot
I
of
wouldn't be
fun.
so
We had
sure.
A lot of the parents of the players that were playing for Carolina.
It's kind of like I've said earlier. I understand that some of these people may be victims to a way of life.
Tailgated,
but,
and then we went to, and it was a night game. So we went to the game.
The world's got
The
your
game
back,
got
girl.
over.
Why are you still there?
You know, it was fairly late into the evening. And after that, Bus, Brooklyn, and Mags and I believe we went to the restaurant in the hotel where we were staying, but we went, had dinner, and then Bus and Brooklyn went home, and of course Maggie and I went to our room.
And then get up the next day, and was there another game?
Another game the next day. That's right. And
then after that, you head back to Moselle with Maggie.
yeah, we went to the game. That's right. Mags and I go back to
Moselle.
Moselle.
The jury's heard about, I think, Ms. Rass talking about you bringing Krispy Kreme donuts to your dad.
Maggie loved her. She spoiled my dad and always taking him something. My dad loves sweets, and she and I picked up donuts and took Krispy Kreme donuts to him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
That's
then,
right. That is the right answer.
Buzz
That's right.
spent the
Yep.
night
Yep.
together at
Hey,
Moselle
hey,
on
Stina.
Sunday night.
I'm
Did you both
not
spend the
being
night
nice
at
today.
Moselle on Sunday night?
Yes.
And then the 7th was.
Thank you for being here.
That's right. It was a Monday, June the 7th.
Hang on. I'll rephrase it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was Monday the 7th a work day for you?
Yes.
Okay. And I just wanted to give that background. And so moving forward to when you testified previously about Maggie asking you to go to the kennels, were you tired?
Stina,
yes, I
he's
was
on the
tired.
freaking stand.
Just had a shower.
Just had a shower.
Yep,
And,
that makes sense. That
you
I
said
can
that-
excuse the timeline
well-
away that way. Yep.
Did you go with Maggie to the kennels
No,
immediately?
no, I did not.
What'd you do? What did she leave?
Yes, she did. She left and Paw Paw was gone.
Do you know how she got to the kennel?
At the time, I didn't. but
Bullshit,
now,
bullshit,
looking at
bullshit.
these
Narrative,
condensed
narrative,
records,
narrative.
And understanding the timeline, it's clear to me that she rode with Paw Paw.
And did you stay in the house
Yes,
for how long?
not long. I laid back on the couch, put my feet up, and like many times when Maggie asked me to do something that I didn't want to do.
And Krispy Kreme at that, right? Wonder if he found the hot now sign. That is pretty virtuous.
And I did.
And how did you get to the kennels?
I went on a golf cart.
Was the golf cart at the house, the main house?
Yeah, it was. And it was there most of the time.
Because he has an opioid addiction. He just lies. He was real nervous.
It's just what I thought it was. It was a little bit of chaos. I mean, it was clear to me that Mags had just let the dogs out. The two dogs that were out were really her pet dogs. One is Grady. You've heard about a black lab. That's Grady. That's Buster's dog. And the other is the yellow lab that you've heard about. That's Bubba. Bubba was mine and Maggie's dog, but it was really mine, Maggie's, Bus, and Paw Paw's dog. It was a family dog. But Bubba's the dog I hunted. I mean, Maggie loved Bubba. She loved Grady too, but I mean, she had a special place for Bubba. But anyway, when the dogs first were let out, the first thing they would do is they would run. If you look at the overhead picture that you've seen, there were planted pines right behind the kennels. So you got the kennels and the chicken coop sort of form an L shape. In that
I don't know if I
L,
can.
some planted pines. First thing the dogs would do
Changing
is
the
go out of
narrative.
that, kennel and
It's like he's so
Bubba-
excited for like show and tell or something.
And Grady, I think, learned this from Bubba, but Grady would do it too. But Bubba had to mark every tree. I mean, he would go and
You're so detailed and specific,
do
but
it,
you
remember
won't
on this tree
be
and that tree. Now
detailed
dogs
and
do, it's
specific
marking
as
his
to
territory. And so that was the first thing
leaving
those
the
dogs did
kennels,
when they
being
came
at the
out.
kennels.
When I got there, those dogs were in that area. So that's why I believe
Don't
that it hadn't been
disrespect
long
Bubba.
before they'd been let out. Grady was chasing guineas, which was a normal thing to do.
I don't know why I'm holding this up.
Guineas.
Guinea fowl is a guinea fowl is like it's like a chicken. It's a domestic bird,
Right.
You know, we had them. They make a lot of racket. It's like a
Yes.
I know this sounds silly, but it's like
And
a
intimidating.
bird. Because anytime
He's so
they just make a
likable
lot of racket
and
anytime
relatable.
anything unusual is going on. If anything disturbs them, it could be a person, it could be somebody.
It
driving
could
up,
be me
whatever, they're
shooting
gonna
my
make a
wife
lot of
and
racket.
son.
So, Grady's chasing the guineas. You know, Paul's fooling with
Yes.
Rogan's dog Cash. Maggie's just kind of standing there watching the dogs.
Completely
which is
agree, Stina.
normal, and they were in that place.
And I feel like this is an
As the dogs are
intimidation
out longer,
tactic.
They branch out more. But at that point in time, they were right.
I feel like there's
So I
someone
told
on
her
the
they hadn't
jury
been
he
out,
knows or
a long time.
knows their jobs or knows their
Bubba-
bosses or
Bubba
whatever.
catches a chicken.
It's one last
I'm talking to
intimidation
Maggie
tactic.
for just, a short
In my
time
opinion,
before
allegedly,
Bubba
fuck
catches
you.
the chicken. I take the chicken, I put it, when Bubba didn't chase, these dogs didn't chase the chickens to kill them. And they didn't normally kill them. They did kill them sometimes, but it was about the chase.
They didn't
with
chase
those
him to
dogs.
kill
And-
him.
and
They
were
didn't
proud
kill him.
when
They
caught
killed him
You could just
sometimes.
tell by the way Bubba
The
would
fuck?
prance to you when he brought
Just
chicken
keep
to you.
listening,
He was
jury.
proud that he had caught it.
I would never
But he wasn't trying
intentionally
to kill it. And so most times the chicken
harm
wasn't
my
dead.
wife and
And that
son.
chicken
I would
wasn't
never
dead.
intentionally
But a lot of times they would be stunned and they
I
would be
pretty much
just
called
real
911,
lethargic.
9
So
away,
you had to take
right
the
away.
chicken
What's
and
wrong
you had to
with
put it up somewhere where, the chicken could be by itself for a minute and it would eventually, usually, go
Oh,
back to
really?
normal and go on about its, whatever.
Was
chicken
it
does.
alive?
Did you get the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
I did. I took the chicken from Bubba and I put it on top of that.
True.
Now we've seen, this video of Paul with Cash, Rogan's dog. Did you know that was going on? What do you remember about that?
Who's that chick with the red
Yeah, I
lanyard?
knew Paul was
She
fooling
looks
with,
familiar.
when I pulled up on the golf cart, Maggie was standing back sort of where the driveway would be. It sort of runs out at the feed room, storage room, what we call it, they call it the feed room. But it sort of ran out. Maggie was a little bit further up.
Correcting
She could see back
people.
in that angle where the dogs were. Paul was fooling with Rogan's dog back towards the kennel. If I remember when I first got there, Paul was more in the driveway, but then I knew Paul was in the kennel fooling with Cash, yes. But did I know what he was doing? I didn't know exactly what he was doing, no.
Did you?
I knew he was fooling with his. I knew he was fooling with
I feel
his
like
kid.
cross-examination is going to happen right at around
that
2
in the
o'clock my
kennel when
time
you
when I have to go pick up the
pulled up, you
kids, and
think?
I'm going to
Not when
have
I
to,
first got there.
just leave them there
Did Bubba or Grady have
Would never.
any collars on?
intentionally.
Yes.
Like, shut up, Crystal.
Both dogs, one dog, do you remember?
I don't know about Grady, but I know Bubba had on his what we call a tracking collar. Paul, for his hunting dogs, Paul had a series of tracking collars, and I think there were 5. It might have been 6, but it's a tracking collar that had a device that would tell you where that collar was, so that Bubba was bad about.
Interesting.
He would stay close for a minute, but then he would take off, and he especially do that on Maggie. He would take off and run, and so he had on a tracking collar that if he did that, you could, you could know, okay, he's, a half a mile down here. It's not going to follow him, but so far, but it would follow a good long distance, so you could go get the dog. If he ran off, which Bubba frequently would do, especially when it was just
If it were a hog, I would understand. Wild hogs are freaking
And so Paul
scary. I'm more afraid of them
probably
than
would've been
a
the one to
bear.
put that on Bubba.
So you've got to swear you've gotten the chicken out of Bubba's mouth and put it up on a doghouse or something?
I believe what I put it on, and I don't remember this, but I've seen pictures and all this, and I saw the chicken sitting on top of the what looks to me like a portable dog crate. Wherever it was sitting on there is where I would have put it up there. Have any reason to believe anybody else moved that chicken, and it ultimately that chicken did die.
And what did you do after you got the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
I got out of there.
That's a night when the
I went
lights
back
went
to the house.
out in Hampton.
Well, look, before we do that, we've seen the dog kennel video with Cash and Mr. Davis, and we slowed it down for him. Do you see the water hose in that video on the ground? You remember seeing that?
Yes, I do.
Was the water hose out?
Obviously, in the video, but I don't specifically remember that, but I can look in that video and see it.
Right.
But that's not something that I noticed.
So, but
I specifically remember everything
sir.
about everything else and every detail
two
and
dogs were
donuts
out.
and whatever, but I don't know
Absolutely.
where all
Bubba
the
and Grady.
shit that
and
would
then you
clear me.
head back. How did you
I
get
don't
back
know
to
where
the
that
house?
shit. Guilt or innocence. I
Same
don't
route.
know.
I mean, the same route I'd come on. I came down the driveway, made a left on. You saw my route in the car. I drove that same route.
My question was obviously wasn't clear enough. What were you in a vehicle? You walked? What mode of transportation did you use to get back to the house?
Same way I came. I went back in the golf cart, and it was the golf cart. If you remember that Mark Ball testified that he saw where we normally would park it. You pull up, pull along the front entrance, and either you come in from the left and you go just past
Yeah,
it and be on the right, or you
that's
come in
not
from the
unheard of
right,
around
you just
here.
passed it on the left. And that's where I got in it.
I kind of
And
want
that's where I
property
put
like
it
that.
back.
Not
Do
1,700
anything
plantation
else,
acres, but
Before leaving, after you took the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
No,
my friend who I'm going to see, I told her
Well,
I'm going to see her
Bubba, take
tomorrow.
stubborn. How long did it take you to get chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
well, Bubba could be stubborn, but Bubba would listen to me.
I text her that
and,
Alec was testifying.
and
She said,
another
I
thing,
look
when
forward
Bubba
to
had
your
on that
summary
collar, one of the other
tomorrow.
features of that collar was
What did Bubba have on the collar?
I talk about this way too much.
Bubba had on the collar.
But again,
Bubba had the collar.
I know Bubba had a collar on, and I'm not sure about Grady.
Okay, go ahead.
If
I'm
I
sorry.
misspoke on that, there's no question about it. Bubba had on a collar.
oh my God.
I assume Grady did too.
Mhm.
But I didn't
Listen,
I didn't,
whatever I
you know,
said
saw
that
Grady,
makes
I
me
didn't
look
notice for
guilty,
a fact
that was
Grady
an
had on a
accident.
collar.
Or I
But he
lied.
probably did.
So. how
Makes
long
sense
did
to me that he did.
Oh yeah, makes sense to me too.
No,
chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
It didn't take long. Number one, Bubba's coming back there to show me, hey, I caught this chicken. So he's not running from me. He's proud of that fact that he caught this chicken. So, I mean, he comes right up to me. Bubba was really strong, but you know, you take your thumb when the dog's clenched and his mouth's a little bit open. All you do is you take your thumb and you push his gum in really tight against those sharp teeth, and his mouth opens right up. Took the chicken out and put it on, I believe, the portable dog kennel.
And then left.
And then I left.
Then leave, okay. And did you go back to the house?
I went straight back to the house, to the air conditioner.
And what'd you do when you got back to the house?
I lay down on the couch.
And then what?
Again?
Well, I mean, was TV on when you went back?
Yeah, the TV never got cut off.
In a golf cart, driving that
Went back
far,
to the house, you lay down on the couch.
he would have heard the
What happened?
gunshots.
I'm not positive I dozed off for a minute or didn't doze off for a minute, but I got up off of the couch.
Did he say I did doze off for a minute or I
I
didn't?
made up my mind I was going to visit
Motherfucker.
my mom.
Had you spoken to Barbara Mixon earlier in the day?
I did. I
And,
talked to Barbara most days. If I didn't see her, I talked to her.
and what was your understanding of your mother's condition late on the afternoon of the 7th?
She was agitated, which she got agitated when my dad, you know, I mean, we were putting my dad in the hospital. I mean, he had a lot over the 18 months, 2 years. I mean, my dad was in the hospital. He was in the hospital a lot.
There's this
And
guy that did like some
Mom-
deep investigation about like their jellyfish company and
I believe my mom knew
if they're
when my
drug
dad
traffickers.
wasn't
He's like,
there
as much as I
because
wanted to believe that Alec
she would
Murdaugh
get
is a drug
agitated. I mean,
trafficker,
that's just the only
I
term
couldn't
you can
find
think of.
anything
She'd get
leading them to
agitated.
do that.
She'd cry a lot. She'd be
Because
fussy when she normally wouldn't be
drug
fussy. And, I mean,
dealers,
she was I know
real big
Alzheimer's
ones,
patients
they
are
write it
unpredictable,
like
but
in their notes app
I'm
on their
convinced she
phone
knew
and
'cause
post it
it
on
happened frequently.
Facebook.
And Barbara Ann told me, your mom's agitated. You need to check on her. I gave her medicine. She's resting. So it wasn't anything urgent.
Call the
She's
witness
resting. So
back.
what
Did he
Barbara
say
would
that?
do, and Barbara
Call
could
the witness
handle
back.
her-
Did he say that?
Barbara could handle her better than, I mean, my mama, we all love Barbara. My mama loved Barbara. Barbara could get my mom.
Is
to do
Barbara the
things
one he
that
accused
nobody
of selling
else-
him drugs?
when
Is
she
that one of
fussed
them?
for anybody else, including me or my brothers or my sisters, Barbara could get her, you know, in order. And, but Barbara had given her medicine and to settle her down and calm her down. And that was sometimes.
Jody
make her
Arias,
sleep
Real's
for a little
friend,
while.
she took the
But then
stand.
she'd
I said what I said.
be agitated when she woke up.
So did you go check on your mom?
I did.
Did where did you park when you got there?
I thought he said that, Julie.
You saw the pictures. There's 2 exits off of that deck. One of them to the right, one of them straight out that back door. I would have parked to the left. If you're coming down these steps, if these are the steps, it would be to the left and back over there,
All right.
which is where I always park. Or where we
Is that where
always park
Gloria Satterfield
anytime you
fell
were
and
going
died?
in that entrance?
That one?
I'll stop there and ask Doug, if you don't mind pulling up State's Exhibit 524, which is the GM OnStar data, and slide 38, which is in evidence. Can you see this the slide with those dots?
My husband thinks he's so damn funny.
I can.
Completely unrelated.
The red dots
Ish.
here at the
Probably. I don't know. Maybe it was.
seem to
Maybe
be
it wasn't.
joined. Where is that in relation to your parents' house?
Where the arrow is?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's back in the area where I'm talking about. All right, so if you look in this picture, all right, you see the you see the open area with the green grass. That's the front door. Okay, yeah, right where that circle is. That's the front door. If you look closely at the house, you can see a big dormer right in the middle of the roof. That's right over the front door. The white thing to the left of the house, that's like a parking pad where the driveway ends. And there's a parking pad. So you go, if you follow the driveway all the way to the house, you're gonna run straight into a carport, all right? By the carport door. Just to the left, before you get to the carport, is this area that you can see here. That's part driveway, mainly parking pad.
All right, I'm gonna, Doug, if you'll pull up Defendant's Exhibit 130, which is in evidence, please, sir.
Yeah.
And from this photo, can you point out roughly where you park that evening?
Where you shot?
Right,
Oh,
this is the entrance to the right that I'm talking about. There's an exit and an entrance.
where Gloria
right
was
in
murdered.
front
I
of
mean,
that door that you see there. So if you came down those steps,
mm-hmm,
walk to your left,
mm-hmm,
would be down there would be where I parked.
mm-hmm.
Oh, would you have parked on the grass?
You get on the edge of the grass back there. There's some grass there for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the area up here by the house where it's sodded and
Sure.
this grass that you can really see in this picture. So it may be on the edge of the grass. Yes.
In relation to the satellite dish, are you looking at this photo? Are you to the right of that?
Yeah, you'd be to the right of that satellite dish.
Okay.
Yes.
And
I believe that satellite dish is right on the edge of the, there's a hedge and like you see I don't know what you call it, a border, like a border where the grass ends and the flower bed or whatever it is starts.
right.
I think you can't see it, but I think that satellite's probably close to that border.
All right. Well, let's
So it'd be to the
Let's put
right of
another-
that in this picture.
Doug, will you pull up a Defendant's Exhibit 134? See if this is So
Yeah.
is the door that you're talking about?
That's it.
The stairs are those the ones where you would enter?
Right. These are the steps that I used that night that we always used. And one of the reasons being is my dad,
Nobody asked you.
this door goes into what we
Just
call
answer the question.
the
Shut the
breakfast
fuck up.
room. The breakfast room leads right into the kitchen. And so straight through this door, all of the breakfast room is kind of to the left. That door goes straight through another doorway. There's no door there, but it's like just an opening. It goes into the kitchen. Immediately to your right of that entrance into the kitchen is the entrance into where my mom and dad's rooms were.
This is more
That
interesting.
door, you were in a little area that had my mom's closet, my dad's closet,
Oh, this is at Almeida. I thought this was, gotcha. Eric Bland says, one of the attorneys that represents some of his client victims, allegedly, in my opinion, narrative. Let me get this straight. You made SLED and law enforcement spend a year and a fortune of money, including the attorney general, proving you were at the kennels and you lied the entire time. And today you're asking for forgiveness.
And whoever was
Give me a
caring
break.
for her was always in her bedroom, which would be just on the other
Agreed.
side of the room. that
Along
has
with the
these windows
the roadside
that you
shooting
see
and
to the right. All right,
giving
those
a
would be the
sketch
windows for the
drawing
room where my
and
dad slept.
Right.
And then my mom's right on the other side. The kitchen's right there. This is the part of the house they were always in.
And are you the only one that would pull up in the back like that?
No.
crazy. Look at how happy he
Common
looks to
for
be
your
on the
brothers and
stand.
Sister to do the same.
Oh, we all did it. I mean, we all part in the same way. If you knew you were going to the front of the house, or if you knew there was a crowd there, or for whatever, you may park on the driveway, but if you knew under normal circumstances.
Eric makes a good point too. He said Alex just said drugs and the police made him lie. He has distrust, he said, for the police and SLED, yet he was a solicitor, meaning the district attorney. I am stunned for the first time in my life. I'm speechless.
Room. He just wasn't up there. He was in this room watching TV, or either he was on this back deck. And my mom was either in
another
her
good
room,
point.
which was just off of that,
Nolan Tutin, the boy who
might be in the
who
kitchen.
just testified first before
Or the
Alec.
breakfast room.
Eric says, "Hey,
And when you got to the house, who was
Adriana?
there? Your mother's house on the night of
Don't kill me.
June 7th.
My mom was
Poor
there,
choice of
and
words.
Shelley Smith
Poor
was there.
choice of words."
And
Eric
what did you
Bland
do
says,
when you got
Nolan Tutin's
The first thing
admission
I
that
did
Paul is
was
everywhere
I
and no
tried-
one knows
I
where he
tried
would be
to-
staying
I
from
knocked
day
on
to
the
day
door. The door
is
was
such
locked.
an
I knocked
important
on the door.
fact.
Shelley
How would a
didn't hear
killer
me.
know to choose June
And then what
7th
did
if
you do
Paul
next?
was
I
going to
called.
be there? If
Called
he
what?
couldn't,
I
or
called
if he could have
my
been
mom's
anywhere all over the
house
state.
to let Shelley know I was
Only
there.
Alec
Please come let me in.
And is that
would
the
know he
house
would be
phone
there
that's
on that
been
date.
referred to?
Yes,
Okay, and did she let you in?
sure.
And then what happened next?
Interesting.
I went in and I visited with my mom.
And welcome.
You want me to go into detail on that?
Well, just briefly. Yeah, what'd you do?
I may or may
I
not
went in
curse,
the
so
house.
watch out.
In my mom's bedroom, my mom had a bed that was where she slept in normal times. It was like, a bed with, the poles coming out of the corner, a poster bed that coming out of the corners. And she had a bed like that where she slept, but she didn't sleep there anymore. But it was in the room. It was a hospital bed. So when you walked in the room, her bed was to the right. Against the wall to the left was a hospital bed, like a single bed, but a hospital bed, and a TV. And then there was a recliner where whoever was helping.
He's testifying right now. This is a
usually sit.
live
So
stream.
I went in and I sat down on my mom's hospital bed.
From
And
some news station. I don't know.
I just
but
talked to
it's-
her for a minute. My mom was
It's
awake,
live.
and I held her hand, and
What kind of condition was she in?
she was, her condition was not good at any time, but given her overall condition, she seemed to be doing pretty well. She wasn't agitated like I thought she would be, or like I was worried she would be, or like Barbara had described her at that point. So she wasn't agitated, and
He's been up there for what, like
anytime
30, 45
we talked
minutes?
to my mom, we
He's
always
already
tried to be
said
real
that,
positive
put it down
and,
just a little bit. He has said that the reason he lied about being at the
upbeat
kennels, he just now on the
and
stand admitted
just-
that he was at the kennels and
I
he
just
lied
talked
because
to
the
her,
scary police made
I
him
just
feel
talked to her, made
nervous
sure she
and he was on
okay.
drugs. So
Did you
he
stay
just kept lying
seated
about
on
it.
the side of her hospital style bed, or did you move around?
I stayed there for a few minutes. I stayed there and I talked to her more than just a few seconds.
Right.
And then, but I didn't stay there. She was, she did look tired. So I got up and I went and I I think I sat on my mom's bed for a minute to start with, and then I laid down on my mom's bed, which is, that's what I normally did when I went in there. There wasn't like a lot of chairs to sit in. And I just laid back on the bed, talked to Shelly, and we watched TV.
And when you're talking about your mom,
Didn't Michelle say she was asleep?
That's right.
Bamberg!
Not the bed she
Sorry.
was in, but her bed, the one I was talking about with like posts.
Bamberg, that guy with the curly hair
skip something.
who just raised his eyebrows behind Jim Griffin is one of our
Maggie planning
senators.
to go over to your mother's with you that night?
No, she wasn't planning to go with me that night.
Okay.
So his
In
sister
fact-
lied.
Maggie didn't really like.
So his
visit
sister
my mom.
lied.
It was. She loved.
So
to visit my
Miriam
dad,
lied about you
and
asking
she
her to be out
loved
there.
to spend time with
Justin
my dad.
Bamberg also
And she spent a lot of
represents
time with
Hakeem
my mom,
Pinckney's
but my
mom,
mom
which
was
is
healthy,
another
but,
person
by this
who
point, my mom, she was a
Alec
shell.
and Russell stole funds from.
She was a shell of her old self, and
That's real sad. You know what else is sad? Stealing money from people who were in car
it was
accidents.
it was kind of
That's-
sad to go.
I
and
thank
visit
you.
her
We
anytime.
agree.
She wasn't healthy, and Maggie didn't like to go and just visit my mom.
When you left Moselle to head to Almeda, the evening after you'd gone back to the house at Moselle, what
I'm just afraid the jurors will
what
be
exit
intimidated.
did you use of the Moselle property when you're going to Almeda on the evening of June 7th?
I went out the main gates, which would be straight ahead. You've heard of the two gates. There's the shop entrance. There's actually several entrances, but the main ones we used, there was an entrance by the Dove Field. There was an entrance further down by Sawtooth Oaks, but the main ones we used were the
There was a
shop
boat
entrance.
dock down at the end where the jellyfish company would be.
Did you go? Why didn't you go by the kennels on your way out?
There wasn't a reason to go by the kennels at that point, and
It's not like
was
I
going
had
to
text my
Alameda,
wife and she wasn't
which
answering or anything, and I thought that was weird.
the main gate would be the gates that were closer.
Did you notify Maggie in some form that you were leaving to go to see your mom?
I tried to call her.
And did she answer?
No.
And he
What'd you do after that?
testified
Tried to
that that
call her
was
again.
weird. That was odd that she didn't answer.
Did she answer?
No, she didn't answer.
So
At
instead
some
of going
point,
and
I
checking,
texted her after that.
just kept driving.
Well, the fact that she didn't answer on 2 times, did that concern you?
At that time,
Right.
it didn't concern me at all. Number one,
Not what you testified before. Bo,
she was with Paw Paw. So, no, number two, it's not unusual to not be able to get somebody all the time when they're at the house. Or
then why did you testify it
Heard all the
was?
testimony about how spotty cell service was. So, no, at the time. it didn't
Then why
strike
did
me
you
as anything
testify that it was weird?
unusual.
Now, moving
Why did you
back to
testify?
Almeda, you spent time with your mother and then you left.
Bamberg's like,
and headed back to
mhm.
Moselle, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you drive straight back to Moselle?
I did.
Now, Alec, there's some information from the telemetry data off your Suburban and perhaps some of this OnStar GPS data that indicates that at some point in time in your mother's driveway, you stopped for about a minute. Do you recall seeing that data?
I did.
What were you doing when you stopped?
I
Do
was
you recall?
getting my phone that my phone had gotten, there was a console in the middle of my car, and my phone had gotten down in the console, between the console and the seat where you couldn't get to it.
Were you, during that minute or however long it was, were you disposing of murder weapons, Alec?
No,
Were you disposing of bloody clothes?
no.
No, I was just hiding them for a minute until I could
And
do
you're right
something
back
else.
To Moselle, was it? Were you driving faster than normal? Normal?
I was driving however I drive, normal way that I drive.
Or I wasn't. I don't know. What's the right answer? I was either driving
When
the
you
normal
got
way or I wasn't.
back to the Moselle property, how did you enter the property? What entrance did you use?
Came right back through the main gate,
And what'd you do then?
went straight to the house.
And when you got to the house, what'd you do?
I went inside.
Were lights on when you pulled up?
I thought OnStar said that
Lights were on in the house for sure. I can't remember.
his
if there were
911 call was
floodlights
within
on
20
or not.
seconds of
I
him
don't believe there were any floodlights on, but
arriving at the property.
there were definitely lights, all the lights in the house.
Right,
were on.
Stacey?
And when you
Whatever you guys say. Besides that, I actually
how
shot
long
them.
did you stay
Whatever you
inside the
say.
house, roughly?
I did it. I mean, I did it. I did. I mean,
Now that I've
no.
seen the benefit of these records, I was in there several minutes.
Obviously, I mean, were you surprised that Paul and Maggie had not made it back to the house?
You know, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I mean, I thought they would have been back by then, you know, but I mean, did it cause me to go into any, it wasn't like I was shocked. But I mean, I thought they would be there. I mean, I distinctly remember, you know, I went and looked. Sometimes I was very hot natured. Number one, I was hot.
What?
And I was taking pills. So I was always hot. Maggie was always cold. Sometimes she would watch TV. We had a TV in the room you see on the wall there. Sometimes Maggie would be in there watching TV where she could have the thermostat different than we always kept it cold. In the,
Oh my God.
So I know I went in there and looked in there for her.
Woo, he's losing his footing.
Usual for Maggie to be taking a bath and be not able to hear me, so I went back there and I know I did those two things and looked in those two places. And
What the
and so,
fuck?
you know, I knew they'd been at the kennels and I assumed they were still up there.
So what'd you do?
I went to the kennels. I may have tried to call them. In fact, I probably did try to call them. I would think I called them. But as I sit here right now, I'm not positive, but I would think I did.
As I sit here right now, I don't remember what
And now that when you
everything was
did you drive down to the
documented.
kennels in your Suburban?
I did.
What'd you see?
He's so gross.
Saw what y'all seen pictures of.
Oh, he's so gross.
So bad.
Can you clarify, they or I? I'm actually team they. He didn't say I did them so bad. He said they. His voice cracked. And it's, they did them so bad. It's a thing. I can't quite get their accent right.
Can I have some water?
Who's alive when I am? Some news station. Nobody important.
I went to
Oh, gross. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen the Netflix documentary episodes yet, and again, I've only seen 2, this is going to disgust you even freaking more. Just because of what he has done, like manipulation wise.
Did you see them on the ground when you're pulling up in your Suburban?
Shut the book up.
I did.
And what'd you do when you came to a stop, Alec?
I think I jumped out of my car.
I don't know. What's the right answer?
I'm not exactly sure what I did, but no, I got out of my car. I ran back to my car, called 911.
Mm-hmm. And at what point did you go back to the house
I called 911.
for the gun?
I was on the phone with 911.
People in my TikTok comments need to know.
I was trying to tend to Maggie. And I just went back and forth between them.
Were you
So gross.
going to Paul and Maggie while you were on the phone with the 911 operators?
Yes.
Shit, I missed it. What do you say?
And in a little bit, I'm going to play the 911 tape, but I just want to ask you, and you told law enforcement that been played here in the court. Did you?
This is not the time. I should stop.
What did you do?
I
when you
hate
went up
him.
to Paul at some point in time.
Paul.
I thought it was Pow Pow or whatever the fuck you said you called him.
Paul was so bad.
We know.
At
So
some
why'd you
point,
do it?
I know. I know. I tried to check him for a pulse. I know. I tried to turn him over.
When you say you tried to turn him over, why were you trying to turn him over?
I feel like I don't understand why they're
I don't know.
completely would be. If he touched her, I don't
Me
know.
and my boys laying
True.
face
There'd be
down.
some on his hands.
He's done the way he's done. His head was the way his head was. I could see his brain laying on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I tried to turn him over. So I grabbed him by the belt loop and tried to turn him over. And when I did, his phone popped out. His phone
Wow, that
and
off real quick.
picked it up and I put it right back there.
Do you have any idea how it popped out?
I mean, I know it came out of his pocket when I pulled on his belt loop. When I pulled him to turn him over. And it just
That
popped
was
out
very
and it
quick.
popped right beside him.
Is that a
Right
record?
beside him.
Were you able to
Correct.
turn Paul at all?
Julie. Yes.
I mean, I didn't. I don't know if I was able to. I didn't.
I feel like there was no reason to check a pulse.
No.
What side of the on what side of Paul were you when you were doing this?
I was on
Good questions, defense.
I was on the side that was away from. I was on the side that was away from where my car was.
Okay.
I mean,
What'd you do with the phone?
I put it back on Pawpaw.
You know, if you put it, you know which way it was pointing, upside down, downside, anyway.
Couldn't tell you anything about it.
Except for the
His
details.
phone popped out. I picked it up and I put it back on him.
Did you see any messages on Paul's phone?
No.
Did you go to Maggie?
Come on, starting with cross exam.
I did.
Did you touch her?
I did.
Where did you touch Maggie?
These are really
think I
good
touched
questions,
her down.
defense, so they
It's
can
around like,
blow them out of the water. My choice of
I don't
words
know.
is horrible.
I don't know. If you ask me exactly, I think I touched her down around her waist, but I don't know.
Why would you touch her down around her waist if you're checking her pulse?
It was so bad.
This is almost a little like secondhand embarrassment watching.
Excuse me. I know I went back and forth. I went back and forth between them. I know I did.
I'd like to play Doug. The
Good
Colleton
point,
County
Stina.
portion of the 911 call, which is in evidence of defendant's exhibit number 9. And Doug, this is the long version, the first clip, and stop it when I say stop it, please.
If they play the whole,
22
I'll type it.
7 minutes 9 seconds.
I'm still here, okay?
County Communication.
Congressman, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Mobile Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay, how did they shoot?
Alan, when you say I've been up to it now and it's bad, what are you referring to?
I'm talking about what I saw was what y'all saw pictures of. And I mean, it was bad. It was terrible. And when I first got there, I know I got out of the car. And I mean, I know I got out of the car. I mean, I knew. Got out of the car, but right at first, I don't think I went all the way to them. I think I ran back and that's when I called 911. And so I called 911, and while I was doing that, then is when I went to Maggie and I went to Paul. And so that's what I think I'm talking about.
Okay. Doug, keep going, please.
Oh, no. Hell no. Do it now. It's bad.
Okay, how did they shoot? Did they shoot themselves?
Oh, no. Hell no.
Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
Okay, and did you see anyone?
He shot in the head, and he shot really bad. He shot it.
Okay, where is he shot at?
Ma'am, I don't know, but there's blood everywhere. I can see his brain. Face down. I tried to turn her a little bit, but she's got a hole in her head.
Okay, is he breathing at all?
No,
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No.
Is there any guns near them at all?
No, there's here.
What color is your house on the outside?
If that's what you're asking, they didn't shoot themselves, ma'am.
What?
Alec, right in there, you say the word here. Are you calling anybody or anything?
No, I'm talking to that dispatcher.
And what did you mean when you said here?
If you listen to that call, one of the first things she asked me, was, did they shoot themselves? And I knew there's no way. I mean, I knew they didn't shoot themselves. It wasn't a gun. They didn't shoot themselves. And she'd asked me that. And then she asked me another question, something about that. And you hear me say here, and then you hear the thing talking. I'm telling her here, and then I say something, and then you hear me say, if that's what you're asking. And I'm letting her know they didn't shoot themselves. I'm saying here, and then I give her an explanation, which you can't hear on that phone, but it's obvious to me what I'm doing. And I say, if that's what you're asking me. So like David Owens asked me on August 11th.
Unless it isn't, and then I didn't, and then I misheard, and then it's drugs.
And there was nobody there.
Well, let's talk about that briefly. Well, when you got
There was no one there, so you did it alone. Two-shooter theory out the window.
Dogs were in the kennels. Dogs were in the kennels. They were wherever they were when law enforcement got there.
And you've seen pictures, and they called Dale Davis to the stand and talk about the hose rolled up. Did you roll the hose up?
No.
Did you do anything down there at the kennels when you got there other than call 911 and attend to Maggie and Paul?
No, I do know that I was trying to find a flashlight. I was trying to find a gun. Other than those things, no, I didn't do anything at the kennel. I didn't do anything with any hose. I didn't do anything with any dogs.
Was there anybody with you?
No.
All right, keep going, please.
You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh.
Okay, did you hear anything, or did you come home and find out?
I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am. Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you.
Oh, man. Oh, should have known.
Alec, we just heard you say, I should have known. What are you referring to?
I said, Paul, I should have known.
What were you referring to?
I was referring to Paul got so many threats. Didn't take serious. Think twice about. So I'm just telling him, Paul, I should have known. I don't specifically remember saying that, but I can clearly hear myself say that.
Okay. What kind of threats did you understand Paul was receiving?
I mean, Paul got the most vile threats. I mean, the stuff that was on social media. I mean, it was. I mean, you couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it. It was so over the top. Truthfully, we didn't think anything about it. I mean, it was just so crazy that, people talking about what he was going to get and how they were going to do this and get him. And I mean, it's stuff you really, I mean, we disregarded it because so over the top. Thought it's so over the top.
Keep going, please, Doug.
Okay, what is her name?
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When's the last time you talked to Maggie?
Hour and a half ago, probably 2 hours ago.
What? Okay, you said about 2 hours ago you talked to them?
Approximately, yes, ma'am, approximately.
Well, you were asked the last time you saw them, and you said an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and then she followed up 2 hours ago. You just heard that?
I did hear that.
Um,
And I said approximately to her
Right.
question.
When was the last time you saw them, Maggie and Paul?
Right after I took the chicken from Bubba.
And the video we've seen is timestamp 8:44 p.m. Is that correct?
That's right.
So was it shortly after 8:44?
It was.
And
It wasn't long after that because you can hear when Bubba gets the chicken, and it wasn't long after I took the chicken from him that I left.
and then you called 911. The records of that, but do you remember roughly 9:07 or right before 9:07?
I mean, I've seen the records and seen the transcripts. Yeah.
And then this is, and the records of this, but this is some minutes into the conversation with 911 operators, correct?
That's right. Like,
Knowing everything we know now, I mean, was it roughly an hour and a half the last time you saw him?
it was. That would, with the time of however long it took to get to this point, however many minutes that is 10:10 to 10, however many, you can look exactly and see what point this is and know what time it is, but it's between 10 and 10:15. And so I'd seen them around 8:45, a little bit after.
All right, please keep going.
Say what they were doing at all?
No, I talked to her in person.
You talked to her in person?
And please hurry.
But we're getting to my other two. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot in the head, but what about your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them moving.
What is your telephone number?
942-1227. I'm going back to my house just to get a gun just in case. I'm about
Did you go back to the house and get a gun?
I did.
And is this the gun that you got? And how did you load this gun? What did you load it with, if anything?
That was gun, as best I can remember. I believe I got that gun off the pool table where you heard there was some other gun. I think that gun was laying with that pool table. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was on that pool table. Would have been the first place I came to. I know I was grabbing the first gun I could get. I grabbed a handful of shells out of the, that I could get my hands on. I know the gun had a shell in it, that I loaded, and I know I had a few shells. So
Have you seen in this case where there was a 16 gauge shell put in that gun?
I've seen in the records and I've seen and heard in the testimony that I put a 16 gauge shell in the gun.
Is that a 16 gauge shotgun?
It's not a 16 gauge shotgun. It's a
Why'd you
12
put a
gauge.
16 gauge shell in it?
I obviously didn't realize what I was doing. I mean, I know you can't put a 16 gauge shell in a 12 gauge gun and not. I mean, I've been hunting my whole life.
Or I didn't. I don't know. Again, I don't have the
It's not a
answers.
mistake I would
Forgot.
have- That's not a mistake I'd have made under any circumstances other than that night.
Why did you go back to the house to get a gun?
I just didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, well, saw it be. I mean, it's just, I didn't know if somebody was still out there. I don't know. I guess I didn't know.
Please keep going.
And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Go back to where he said he's going to my house to get a gun, just a few seconds back, 10 seconds maybe.
I know you're upset, Mr. Murdaugh, but I don't want you to get a gun and have a gun out whenever my officers get there, okay?
Back up some more. Back up some more, please.
My house, just to get a gun, just in case.
What is your telephone number?
942-1227. I'm going back to my house just to get a gun, just in case. I'm about 100 yards from my house.
Al, you said you're about 100 yards from the house.
That's what I said.
Is it much further than that?
I mean, as you've heard in the testimony, it's 1,100 and something feet, but
Okay.
I said I was 100 yards.
You were wrong about your estimate.
I'm sure I was wrong.
Okay. Keep going.
And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I know you're upset, Mr. Murdaugh, but I don't want you to get a gun and have a gun out whenever my officers get there, okay?
I will not do that. He's been being threatened by, my son had a smokestack. He's been being threatened for months and months and months. He's been hit several times and he should finally quit.
Do you know who was threatening your son?
It's too many people. Over the phone. One second.
And you don't know the name of who was threatening him at all?
My son knows. And my son knows.
Your son knows who was threatening him?
I have another son now.
Okay.
All right, I'm going back down there.
All right, roll to the next tape of the same call.
2021, 22 hours, 13 minutes, 58 seconds.
Are they close, ma'am?
Yeah, they've been around with you ever since you got on the phone with me. I have multiple people coming out there to you.
This is a cold blooded month.
Okay, can you do me a favor, Mr. Murdaugh, and turn on the flashers on your car so that way they can see where the kennels are? Do you have your flashers on for me, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
I already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
Not, Ally, that second clip starts at 22:13, 10:13, 58, and you're asked, you're told don't touch them. Had you touched them by then?
Yes,
And that way you told the 911 operator.
it is.
And, can you say exactly during that 6-7 minutes when you actually touched them?
I know I touched Maggie. I touched Maggie several times, but I mean, I think I didn't. I don't think I touched Pawpaw, but 2 times.
Did you touch one or both of them before you got in the car and drove back to the house?
Yes. Yeah.
One or both? Do you know?
Both.
All right, keep going, please.
Okay. Well, I just don't want you to move anything just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
Oh.
Okay. And did your son, I know you said that he had been threatened, did your son make reports of this at all?
Yes, ma'am.
He did.
Al, you informed the 911 operator that Paul had made reports of these threats. What are you referring to?
I just know that it had been reported. I don't know that. I don't believe there was any formal police reports or that type of thing. But it had been reported, and it was well known.
Okay. Were you saying he had filed some official report when you said yes?
No, I've never thought there was a police report or some formal report like that. No.
Do you know whether or not he made some type of report on campus?
Oh, I know he did.
What do you know?
I know that there was a time when he was asked to come meet with, God, I can't even remember the gentleman's name now, but I appreciated it so much.
Because of all the drugs. I know there was a report. No, I don't think there was a
Students,
report unless I said there was a report.
But anyway,
Then I was mistaken, and it was
reached
the
out to
drugs.
Paw and wanted to talk to him. And I mean, at first we were concerned, you know, why they want to talk to him? And I mean, even I believe I had Paul come talk to you about that because we were concerned. Well, what are they going to talk to him about? But when
We don't
Paul
need
and
any more trials
Jim
or
got
anything like
there,
that.
it turns out that it was really just I mean, they were wanting to make sure he was okay. But, you know, just make sure he was okay. And I know that, you know, they were aware of the threats or some level of threats. And so, yeah, I mean, it had already been reported to them.
Keep going, Doug.
Yes, keep it on Buster, please.
Ma'am, I'm gonna call, I need to call some of my family.
Okay. Well, do me a favor for me. Whenever you see the officer or the medics, because they're all coming to you, can you put your gun in your vehicle for me? Absolutely. Okay. Well, we have them come in. Turn on the flash on your vehicle.
I don't understand why the 911 operator let him get off the phone. Whoa, my hair. Sorry about that.
You got the flashes on for me? Okay. All right. Just, whenever you see them, put your gun up for me, okay?
Okay,
How old is your son?
22.
Okay. All right. We're getting them out there to you, okay? All right.
So Alec, did you call family after you got off the call with the operator?
Yes.
Who'd you call?
I know I called my brother Randy. I know I called my brother John. And I know I tried to call Roro. Well, Roro's not family, but I called Randy and John. And I called Randy and John.
And then you just mentioned Rodo?
Rogan. We call him Roro. I called him Roro.
Why did you try to call Rogan?
I mean, Rogan.
Yeah, why didn't you call your surviving son?
Rogan's house was like, I don't know, as the crow flies, maybe 2.5 miles, 3 miles.
Or was it 100 yards?
And Rogan was like family.
But my son was family, and I did not call him.
Yeah, I just wanted somebody. I wanted somebody to be out there.
Had you seen Rogan's name on Paul's phone in any way that night?
No.
Were you trying to set him up and it failed? And
You called.
now you got to act like you were bros.
No.
Did you try multiple times?
Looking at these records, I believe that I did, but I believe some of those are like the FaceTime calls that are to Rogan. I mean, I'm trying to call him, but I don't believe that was me actually. And I didn't FaceTime, and I didn't FaceTime people. So I think that's.
Then who the
either
fuck
me
was
trying
it?
to
Who
call
had
him
your
and hitting
phone,
FaceTime,
bitch?
or that's me hitting.
Speaking of hitting things, what was with the restaurant search?
In the
And also
State's Exhibit
commenting on a
519,
chick's
which is the condensed
hot
timeline
body
done by
while your
Agent
wife and son are laying there dead?
Murdaugh.
Weird.
There's an indication, Alec, that at 10:22:09, you opened a group text message from Michael Gunn stating, "She brought the heat from
Thank you,
Miami
defense.
boys."
Thank you,
Reading
defense.
text messages from Michael Gunn right after you got off with the 911 operator?
I heard them ask that question. I can promise you, I wasn't reading any text messages.
But you responded. Why'd you respond then? You old dog. Why'd you
There's also an
respond?
entry,
Yeah, you're looking real shitty.
Alec, that says
Est.
at 10:40 p.m.
Fuck you.
you did a Google search or a Safari browser search for Whaley's at Edisto while your wife and son are laying dead on the ground. Did you do that?
No. Whaley's is a restaurant at Edisto that we ate at a lot of times. We got takeout from a lot of times. So I'm assuming it was in my search history, pulling up the restaurant, and I obviously was trying to call people or dialing, and I hit that. I wasn't doing any Google searches.
And is one of the persons that you dialed that night a wedding photographer?
It's a guy named Brian White. I saw that on the call log. Brian White's a guy who was in my, contacts, that is a videographer that I've used in cases. I haven't used him in 2 years. And he's a good guy, but we're not personal friends. So certainly wasn't calling him.
So he's a photographer you've used in cases. Calling him to come out to the crime scene, maybe?
What does that indicate to you that those actions on your phone? How do you account for that?
Yeah, how do you?
Obviously, they're unintentional. I mean, I'm doing something with my phone trying to call people, but I'm not trying to call those people. I'm not doing a Google search for any Whaley's restaurant, and I'm certainly not reading any texts.
And I'm certainly not responding to texts, you old dog. I'm certainly not.
I want to ask you,
Or maybe I did. I don't know. Drugs.
For a break for about 10 minutes. Please do not discuss the case. You'll stay put, Mr. Murdaugh.
Waters, don't talk to him. Gross. Don't touch each other. Ew. No. Icky. There's a person out there who's been crocheting this. Crocheting.
We'll take a 10-minute recess. Step down. Not discuss your testimony.
They first crocheted Creighton Waters. And then they asked, who should I do next? People said Judge Newman. So they crocheted Judge Newman. And I have to weirdly admit, I would like one of those. He's just a cute grandpa. And then crocheted the Chicken and Bubba. Because there's like a free Bubba campaign that he really wasn't the bad dog that he was made out to be. So I don't know how I feel about all these things. Again, I don't know. It's just tough. I do think it's cute, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever be the time and place, but anyhow. So, yeah, let me see if I can. Let's go on Twitter so I can find. I'm going to remove this for now. No, I won't, because I don't want my face to be that big. Let's see what Mandy and Eric and Liz and everybody, Sarah A. Ford, are saying. My goodness. So the people I'm about to talk about, if you don't already know, Mandy Matney is the first reporter who went in depth reporting on the boat crash, and she's kind of the one that uncovered everything. So she started investigating them back in 2019 with the boat crash, and by them I mean the family, and has since become the Murdaugh Murders podcast. Her best friend, also an investigative reporter, Liz Farrell, joined her. And then Eric Bland is someone that Mandy would have on her podcast a lot because he's an attorney that represented Gloria Satterfield's sons. Gloria is the lady who did housekeeping for them, who fell and fell at the Moselle property. They're saying it was because dogs tripped her, and she died from the injuries like 3 weeks later. So Eric would often give his 2 cents on the podcast, and he just has very interesting things to say. Let me see if it's mine. Mine looks like it's all the way up for the trial, and my computer volume is all the way up. I'm not sure because it's busting out my eardrums over here. So, that would be scary and inappropriate, just saying. But, so Mandy podcast, Liz podcast, Eric also now podcasts, because they still do Murdaugh Murders podcast. Mandy and Liz do, but Eric, Mandy and Matney, Eric, Liz, and Mandy have a separate podcast called Cup of Justice. They're covering the trial right now. I think they do a weekly podcast. And then I think from there, they're going to be, I mean, there's so much more. As you'll see, again, I've been talking about the Netflix documentary, 3 episodes. It kind of helps explain all these like loose ends to everything and who everyone is. If it's confusing for those who haven't followed around since like day 5 of her podcast, I don't know. Maybe it was me. Who knows? But drugs, I'm not on drugs. Tylenol. I have kids, get headaches. But she seems like there's endless amount of things to be covered from the state of South Carolina in terms of our SLED agents, you know, whether or not they're involved in helping investigations not happen. Again, they were, I don't know if it was a SLED agent or a typical police officer, normal police officer. I'm so used to not saying the word normal, that were instructing people not to call Mallory Beach's family the night of the boat crash, and just lots of other things. This judge, that judge, this attorney, this DNR agent, this bank CEO, CFO, whatever. I feel like there's going to be a real big investigation into PMPED, the former law firm, after he does look cuddly. He's like a cute, what is it? Mr. Rogers' grandpa. I love him. No, you're fine. I mean, I'm technologically challenged, so it very much. It was low for you as well? I don't know. What would I need to do to fix that? Like, I'm streaming through the news channels, YouTube. The volume is all the way up, and it's all the way up on my computer. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. So, let's see. I still can't believe he's testifying. I mean, I'm kind of glad that he is, because I feel like if there is any chance of him being found guilty, it will be because of his own words and undoing, as kind of the whole trial has shown. But if there is someone on the jury panel, whatever the hell you call it, that Alec can intimidate, then I feel like that would be a way he would still be found not guilty. Okay. Could be just court audio, but wouldn't it be difficult for me to hear? I don't know when cross will be. Is your YouTube volume? Yes, my YouTube volume is all the way up. So I don't know. I'm so sorry. I thought you guys could hear it well. Let me escape out of here and see. I'm using StreamYard. Is there like, I mean, wouldn't my volume be down as well? Like if it were a StreamYard issue? I can go to a different newsy news thingy do. Ew, sorry. Oh, hey, no, let's not show anything that I don't want to be seen. Okay. Including my face real big. Oh my God, don't put me on your TV. That's just disgusting. Okay. Let me pull this back up so I don't forget. Cross, they're not, the prosecution isn't finished with him yet. So, cross examination will just be when they're done. And I don't know when that will be. I really kind of hope it's like, I don't see how the defense can drag this out any longer. However, I'm really hoping that they cross-examine after 2 p.m. here, after the lunch break, because that's when I can sit and watch it again. I'm going to have to leave in like an hour and 15 minutes to go pick up my kids. This is one of the only days I don't have. I'm very blessed. My child is disabled. We have someone that comes in and helps. So I would be able to stay on here, but today's not the day. Why am I having trouble finding everything? I tried to listen to Emily Baker sometimes cover this, and I don't know if any of you else have ADHD, and I know she does as well. I've said this before. I can't follow people who have ADHD who talk. And I'm sure that probably sounds really hypocritical, but it's like two people and whirling thoughts and like not ever connecting back to where you're supposed to be, and it's too damn overwhelming for me. Let's see. So what do you guys think? I'm confused too on when they were playing the 911 call. My original understanding is that I'm going to the statement that he made. Yeah. Shush. Well, how am I going to know it's back on? Okay, I can't do law and crime. See, ADHD. Yeah, Emily's chat is like really, really. Oh, okay. You start drama in Emily's chat? I feel like that's not hard to do. What did I? Thank you. Is he the last witness to take the stand? I imagine so. From what the defense said a day or two ago, I think they were planning on being done by Friday afternoon. I wouldn't know who else they could bring in from this point on. Oh, you're fine. No, that's not drama. That's helping me. So I don't know who else they could bring. Okay. When I originally heard the 911 call that Alex, let me specify, there's so many. The one of the night of Paul and Maggie's deaths, the one where Alec calls to me, it sounded like he did not bring up a gun at all until, and that he had gone to get one until the 911 operator brought it up and said, I know you're upset, but I don't want you going back and getting a gun. And I swear he said, I already went back and got one. Which to me, I didn't understand, because if he's, let's just say, let's follow his thing. He goes back to the house first when he gets back. He goes to the kennels to check on them, finds them. If he had already gotten the gun, that meant that he drove all the way back to the house, got the gun, drove all the way back to the kennels, and then called 911. I posted this on TikTok where people were saying that I misunderstood, or it's pretty split. They're saying no, while he was on the phone with 911, shitballs, that he had said, I'm going back to get a gun, or that he had been on the way to get a gun while he was on 911. I didn't hear it that way, and I thought it was going to clarify from here, but when he was talking to, it sounded like he was doing that whole like spin again of like, I mean, I think maybe I did or I didn't, or I don't, again, he was intentionally being so freaking confusing. All right, I'm gonna unmute and add them back. Where are they? But I don't know. I keep like zoning out right at that exact moment when they
bring the jury.
Explain it. Okay, and this is a different news station, I think, than the last one. Every time I do it now. I think maybe, I don't know, drugs. What's the right answer? Everybody's so creative. But I'm not quite clear what his story is, which I guess is not surprising because I don't even think he does. In fact, he said he doesn't. Yes, they get to cross-examine. Because technically this is the defense's witness. Don't ask me any more technical, because I don't know. The defense called this witness, so it's theirs to do the questioning first. Then the state, the prosecution, will get to cross-examine him.
Thank you.
And then I believe
Yes, sir.
the defense can do whatever is called after that. I don't know. Please tell me those aren't jurors. Okay, no. I'm so scared they're going to give out their identities.
Allie, you talked about going to
What just saying said.
Paul's body and Maggie's body. You recall getting
How is the volume?
blood on you, on your hands, or any part of you?
Yes.
Do you know with whose blood you would have gotten on you?
I know I got blood on my fingertips.
Can you differentiate, whether it was Maggie or Paul?
It's probably both. Except with so much blood. But
There, turns out there was a drop of blood on the steering
I think it's
wheel.
possible, Stephen.
You know how that got there?
I mean, if it was fresh, I put it there. If it was not fresh, Maggie drove my car all the time, but I assume it got there from me touching Maggie and then touching the steering wheel that night.
And then I think maybe there's possibly blood on this gun, maybe not. Do you know if you got transferred blood on anything else that night?
If Maggie's blood's on that gun, then I put it there. Maggie didn't really fool with guns other than to put them up.
There's, did you submit to a GSR examination that night?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, and that Brian Varnado testified about.
Where your hands were swabbed?
That's right.
And then your clothes were collected by, I don't know if it's Agent Owen or someone else.
That's correct.
And turns out there's some GSR on your shirt and on your shorts. And did you handle this gun? This is
Yes.
Not trying to say anybody's ignorant. It took me a minute
Yes,
too.
I basically had that gun with me until I put it up against my car. When the police officer, I think it was Mr. Green, got there, I put it against my car.
GSR is gunshot residue.
Nolan
Maybe obvious to some.
This is
Wasn't
one
to
of
me
the
for a hot
shotguns
minute.
Paul liked to use.
It is.
Was he meticulous about cleaning his guns?
Pawpaw?
Yeah.
No. Now, when he cleaned it, he was meticulous about it, but it was far and few between when he actually cleaned them.
Your shirt went through testing and analysis, and you were part of this case, provided results of that, were you not?
Yes, sir. I wasn't provided at the time. I've seen them
Right.
seen all these records.
You, just let me ask you, did you get on your shirt high velocity blood spatter from being within a distance of a shooting Maggie or Paul?
There's no way that I had high velocity blood spatter on me.
Had you seen reports that said that at one point in time?
I have seen reports that said that.
Just to be clear, were you anywhere in the vicinity when Paul and Maggie were shot?
I was nowhere near Paul and Maggie when they got shot.
After SLED collected your clothing that night at the main residence at Moselle, you remember changing in? You remember what you changed into?
Do I remember?
Yeah.
I know I changed clothes, and I've learned since then what I had on, but
You don't remember? Okay.
don't remember that at all. But I understand I had on athletic shorts and a t-shirt.
Sure. And other people have talked about this. I'm not going to repeat it, but where did you spend the night, or where'd you go to after leaving Moselle when you left for the evening?
We went to Alameda too. We went to my mom and dad's house, and we stayed there.
And who went with you?
I believe that Bus in Brooklyn and I rode together. John Marvin might have been with us. I know John Marvin stayed at Alameda with us. I just don't know if he rode in the same car we rode in. But I know I rode with Buster in Brooklyn. I know that for a fact.
And the next morning, what'd you do? And we're talking about daylight hours on June the 8th. What did you do?
And we basically got up and came back to Moselle.
Do you remember roughly what time you got to Moselle?
I don't remember. No, I don't remember what time. There's things I remember about that morning, but I don't remember exactly what time we left.
And Alec, we'll get to this in more detail, but during that period of time, is it hard to remember times, what time things started and stopped, and how long things took?
It's definitely hard to remember. Now, looking at these timelines and all these records, it sure helps, but
That's
Just
more
do it off the top of
Appalachian
my head. It's
mountains.
very difficult.
It's not so much the low
All
country.
that. When you went back to Moselle on the morning of June the 8th, did you know whether you took a shower there or took a shower at Alameda or took a shower at all?
Now I know we took a shower at Moselle. I did not take a shower before I left Alameda. We basically got up and went to Moselle. Maggie's mom and dad.
They were there.
They were coming. Tell them, see them. We got up and we got up from Alameda and we left and we went to Moselle.
And do you know, do you even recall SLED coming in and searching the house for anything on the 8th?
I knew that, I knew they were doing it. Yeah. I knew they were doing it. But I don't remember. I wasn't out in that gun room and see all that video and all that, but I knew SLED, was coming in there. We made the house available for them to come in there. So, I can't tell you details, but yeah, I remember it.
Did you at one point just tell SLED they had carte blanche to search anywhere, anytime?
I told SLED they could do anything, anywhere, anytime that they wanted to. Anything to do with me.
That's the most popular theory, and
I
that
didn't own the cars. I would get.
he took the clothes to Alameda to his mom's
They had
house,
full,
hid them there,
whatever they wanted.
then came back and got them at
They were
a
welcome to.
later date and time. That's what people are theorizing.
And did you have any discussions with David Owen or anybody at SLED about consenting to General Motors to get that off the car?
Every time that I talked to David Owens, I would ask him about getting OnStar data and GPS data from phones.
And why was it important to you to get OnStar data and GPS data from the phone?
To confirm where I was saying I went, what I did, GPS. At that point in time, I knew that Maggie's phone had been taken. And I knew that my Suburban and my phone and Maggie's phone never crossed paths. And that was extremely important to me. And I asked him about it every single time we talked. Every single time.
But he never said his and Paul's didn't.
And
He's saying,
Maggie's phone,
I feel like he's telling on himself
you know her password to her phone?
because he got rid of Maggie's phone.
Do you know her password to her computer?
So he's pointing out they
Does she know
never
your
crossed
password?
paths after.
And when
But Paul's phone
Maggie's
was
phone
there.
located on the side of the road,
So he's not fixating on
did
that.
you provide SLED the password to her phone?
I did.
Bye, Stacy.
I think I actually provided it to John Marvin, who provided it to SLED, but I'm the one who gave it to him.
Right. And your knowledge that Maggie's have these location services on her phone, she used them frequently.
All the time. One of Maggie's things that she liked to do was there's that app called Find My Friends that you can see what other people are doing and they can see what you're doing. Maggie loved
Stalking people?
me, Bus, Pawpaw, Brooklyn, Grandma, P, Marion,
Her
the
sister.
three girls, Lizzie. There
Damn.
were a few others, but the people that were closest to her, she had them all in her phone, and she loved to look at that phone and see where people are, and she'd love to surprise you. Like, let's say you're at Walmart. She looks on there
Sounds
and
like
she'd love to text
stalking.
you, get me a TV from Walmart or something, you know, like
Yeah.
she followed you and see where you were. She used it all the time. And so, you know, I just knew that there would be GPS data on Maggie's phone.
Alan, when you're being interviewed on the night of June 7th,
Should you be saying that?
again on
Any of
June
it?
the 10th,
Should you be saying any of that?
what was your understanding as why they were interviewed?
Are you okay, dog? Are you gonna make it?
Why were you being interviewed?
On
By
June the
SLED?
7th and June the 10th?
Yes, sir.
What's the question again?
What is his understanding of why SLED was interviewing him on the night of June the 7th and again on June the 10th?
And the basis for the objection?
401 and 402, Your Honor.
What do you mean?
Relevance, Your Honor. His understanding is not important. What he said is important, Your Honor.
Response.
Well, I can, it goes to his, you know, his follow, it goes to his state of mind. I mean, that's what it goes to.
Objection sustained.
Did, why was it important to you to be able to get data from the Suburban, data from your phone, and data from Maggie's phone?
I knew at that point in time, I knew since I was the person who found Pawpaw and Mags that I was
Isn't that
a
creepy?
suspect. I mean, they kept talking about this circle, but I mean, I knew that it was very important for me to find that, to get that.
And what was your belief as to that information? What would it have done for you?
There's no question in there that it would demonstrate that I couldn't have done this.
And when was the data from General Motors off that Suburban finally obtained?
Sasha.
It was either this past Saturday or the Saturday before that, according to what
I just cut my finger.
was said in this courtroom.
During this trial?
Absolutely.
And,
Why would you stalk your friends and where they
knowledge
are?
was
Or even your family
GPS
members?
data ever able
Like,
to
I'm
be
sure my
located
husband
off
and I
Maggie's
can
phone?
find each other's location because we're on the same
Not
account
just to
and
my
whatever,
knowledge, it
but
was not able to be gotten.
for emergency
Testimony was
reasons,
in here that it couldn't be gotten. It only went back to
but unless I
June the
suspect
ninth.
he's,
Everything
Oh.
before that was erased
I don't know.
on Maggie's phone.
Sure, everything's legal and people have access, but I just
Now,
feel
when,
like boundaries, man.
starting
Boundaries.
June the 8th, when that Moselle, did a lot of people come to support you, be with you on June the 8th?
On June the 8th,
Yes, sir.
like the next day.
Right.
Yes, sir. A lot of people.
And you mentioned your Maggie's parents and family came as well.
Yes, sir.
From that moment, June 8th, when folks, family came and to Moselle and you met with them, were you left alone by any of your family members the rest of that week?
No, I mean, I was attached to Buster. At the hip. But, I mean.
Right?
Well, I wasn't.
What happened on June the 10th? Besides being interviewed by SLED?
My dad died. My dad passed.
Where did you stay and with whom did you stay on the night of June the 8th
Same.
Night of June the 9th.
Kind of makes more sense about stuff like the kids getting in accidents and everything, and like don't call 911.
You asked me to start on the 8th.
Like they can just find their location easily, so they can
Starting on the 8th.
cover everything up real quick.
I stayed with Buster, and as long as Brooklyn was there, I stayed with Buster in Brooklyn. But
It's like a herd of elephants.
I'm pretty sure that's beginning on the 8th. I know the 7th we stayed at Alameda, and I believe on the 8th we started staying at John Marvin and Lizzie's at Greenfield.
And how far is Greenfield from Alameda?
As the crow flies, I mean, it's no distance. It's less than 5 minutes. It's probably a few minutes away.
And who stayed there? Did John Marvin and his wife Liz stay there as well?
Yes, John and Lizzie.
But every single person you know and you're close with, you got to know when they're going to Walmart.
And their kids, Bus and Brooklyn and I know Bubba and Maymay stayed there. Well, Lizzie's mom and daddy stayed there. And my daddy's best friend and his wife came in there. I believe they came before my daddy passed. I know they came after he passed and stayed there.
And how many nights do you recall staying there at Greenfield?
So I stayed at Greenfield. The 7th was a Monday. I stayed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Greenfield.
Greenfield is not Greenville.
Maggie and Paul's
Clarify.
funeral was
They have been to
Saturday.
Greenville. His
No, I
niece
heard
lives
that
in
this
Greenville.
courtroom say it was Saturday, but
Greenfield. If they say Greenville,
service?
they'll probably pronounce
the
it
funeral was on
Greenville.
Friday.
I was on Friday.
I know that for a fact too.
And then your father's funeral's on Sunday?
My father's funeral was on Sunday, and it was my father's funeral. I forget the term. But Sunday. I mean, that's when we.
But it was his wife, he said. I mean, why am I believing him now, right? But
That's when we buried him. We didn't bury him when we had the service on Friday. Because I don't think they were done. But that's when we buried them, along with my dad, on Sunday.
And Alec, what'd you do with the following week, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Starting when now?
So the day after your dad's funeral,
All right, Monday. I went to Grandma and Papa T's, Somerville.
at some point, Monday.
In the afternoon. You mean what did I do when I got up that
Yeah,
morning?
well, where did you stay? Monday night?
We stayed at Greenfield Sunday night. So we woke up at Greenfield on Monday.
So, and Sunday night, you were with the same family members, your brother and Brooklyn and Buster and.
That's right.
Okay. And Liz?
And Lizzie and Lizzie's mom and dad. And I believe Donnie and Paula were still there, but I can't remember when they left.
And then you went to Somerville with whom?
I believe I went to Somerville by myself, but I know Buster in the car by myself. I can't remember if Buster and I rode together, but I think we might have had separate cars. We probably did ride together that first day. I don't remember, but I know I went to Somerville and Buster was in Somerville with me, with Grandma and Papa T.
And Somerville is where Maggie's parents live?
That's right. That's Maggie's mom and dad. Maggie's mom is Grandma, and Maggie's dad's Papa T.
And did you stay with them for a few days in Somerville?
I stayed with them in Somerville.
again, I think it's more about intimidation.
We stayed in Somerville Monday night,
These people
Tuesday
still have
night.
power.
Wednesday night, and then we went to Greenville.
And
See, then I just think he said Greenville because he said Greenville, but I could be mistaken. People say shit weird around here.
My niece.
Oh, then yes. Great.
That was,
Thank you for coming to my town. Thank you. Get the fuck out. Don't
she's
ever
having
come
a
back.
baby, and
Piece of shit.
Maggie has just been. She's been so excited. So
It's probably at the hospital right down there.
she's just so proud of those girls. She was so excited about the baby.
You took it away from her.
And so the baby being born just became such a big deal to me.
so was the baby born?
Yeah.
And you went
Yeah,
up?
baby was born. Beautiful little baby girl. Beautiful little mom.
And then did you go up to the lake after that?
We did. Well, I mean, we stayed at this lake, Kiwi, that y'all heard about, is really close to Greenville. So
Not Lake Kiwi. Get the fuck out of my area.
Kiwi, but we went up there because, you know, and when she had the baby, I want to say the baby might have gotten born shortly after we got there, like Thursday, but I think it was Saturday before we could go and see them and see my niece and see the baby. So, you know, I mean, that's where we went, was to Lake Kiwi. But they live in Greenville.
No, I just said it the correct way. Yeah, she's a teacher. I don't know if she is anymore, but she is a middle school teacher.
On the morning of June 16th, I think that was a Wednesday. I think that's Wednesday.
Get out of my area.
Where'd you
Stay
wake
down
up?
in the low country.
Somerville.
Did you ever go to Alameda on that day?
On Wednesday,
Yes, sir.
I don't believe so.
Did you go to Alameda at 6:30 in the morning on the?
I know for a fact that I didn't go to Alameda at 6:30 in the morning. I was in Somerville. I didn't go to Alameda at any point early in the morning.
My neighbor just
I
texted
was in
me.
Somerville.
He has a
And I'm not
niece in
positive about
Greenville?
this, but I know those.
Bitch, have you not been
I know they
listening?
did I know some of those records they have. It was sometime before I left Somerville.
Did you ever take during that week? Let's just start with that week following your dad's funeral. Did you ever take a tarp into the house at Alameda? A tarp, a blue tarp.
The week following my dad's funeral?
Yes, sir.
No, I did not.
There's been, I don't know where it is in any of these boxes, but this blue rain jacket. Have you ever seen that before?
Never seen it before, never touched it, and don't know anything about it.
Did you, did you ever remember taking a tarp at any point in time over the house at Alameda?
No, I don't remember it. I don't remember taking a tarp over there, but you know, I mean, Shelley's got something in her mind about that, and there may have been some point, but I certainly don't remember it. And it certainly wasn't anytime around my dad's funeral or the weeks following.
I think we talked briefly about your.
I mean, he's probably going to say it's the drugs.
Play Doug from.
Yes, very much so, especially when he
State's
was
Exhibit
heavier, when Alec was
517,
heavier.
Which is the August 11th interview. starting at 5 minutes and 52 seconds. If you could pull that clip up, and I want you to listen to this.
Okay. Tell me again what it is.
It's August 11th interview, starting at 5 minutes and 52 seconds.
All right.
Can you go to 5 minutes and 52 seconds?
Who was at your house when you left? And what time did you go to the office? We have been. Who was at your house when you left? And what time did you go to the office? We had been to a ball game that weekend. I don't remember exactly. 9:30. Something like that.
Al, on this tape, were you being asked when you went to work on the 7th?
Yes.
And you said 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning?
And then I think it said 10 o'clock at the latest.
Is that correct?
No, it wasn't.
Now I've seen all these records. What does it look like? What time you went to work on the 7th?
A little afternoon.
Now that you've seen all the correct answers,
All right.
what is your answer now?
If we'll go to the Doug States Exhibit 243, which is the June 10 interview.
You know, Mr. Griffin, on that same date, though, I also, if you play that thing, and I don't know if it's right then, but if you play that further, I also told him the best way to see exactly when I went in that door is to go and get my information from my law firm. And I told them that we have a, you know how things are electronic now, where you don't have a key, you have a key card, and you have a key card in your wallet. And so when you use it, it creates like all this other stuff, a digital footprint. And I told David Owens.
Yeah, you probably didn't know about that, did you, buddy?
And was that a common response of yours when you were asked about specific times, that you would give them your best estimate, but you would point them to where they could find the most accurate data?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I agree, just saying.
Yes, sir.
So if we've got the June
Been a
10th
lot of
interview, which is
people's
States Exhibit 243,
stance.
and Doug, I'd like to go to 9.
It's got to be beyond
seconds.
reasonable
And
doubt.
here
You can have
being asked, when
reasonable
did Paul
doubt.
arrive at
No.
Moselle?
I don't freaking know.
Roughly what time in the afternoon?
That looks like a seafoam.
Somewhere in the 5 o'clock range, a little bit. It was broad daylight.
Is that shirt seafoam? Green?
Okay.
You know, and we rode, we just rode around. We rode around.
So did you tell him on June 10th that Paul got there at 5 o'clock time period?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I obviously did.
And was that incorrect?
Yes, sir. It was incorrect.
And what time did you, looking at the records now, what time did it look like Paul actually got there?
And looking at the records, it's clear that he got there sometime around 7 o'clock.
At some point in time, you have a conversation with Shelley Smith about, how long you were over at Alameda on the night of June the 7th. Do you remember?
I don't distinctly remember having a conversation with her about how long I was over there, but I know that I told Shelley Smith.
Good. It looks like
that
Cross might be after lunch. They normally do lunch around 2.
Talk to her, and that I'd appreciate it if she would talk to them, and that she just needed to tell them the truth.
Bullshit narrative.
And did you take extra care not to talk to people that you knew Sled would be talking to?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
After this boat wreck,
Which is weird.
So much talk about in this courtroom.
Which is weird.
There were social media, newspaper, And it went deeper than that, but I mean, there was so many,
He means Mandy's
so
podcast.
much talk about
He means
how,
Mandy's podcast.
you know, fixed witnesses and structured the investigation, just things that were totally false, that were absolutely baseless, but it was said repeatedly.
Every Wednesday,
repeatedly.
Murdaugh Murders podcast.
This
Cup of
witness and
Justice.
influenced this police officer and all these things. So I wasn't taking any chances.
I want to ask you about, you can take that down, Doug. Thank you. Ask you about the August 11th interview with David Owen at the SLED office in, I think, here in Walterboro. Do you remember that?
August 11th, absolutely.
Had you requested that meeting?
I've been requesting, what I'd really been requesting is some information. I've been begging David Owens to come meet with me and specifically I wanted Grandma, Papa T. There were so many questions that I couldn't answer. And I've been begging him to meet with me and to meet with Grandma and Papa T. I've been begging him for weeks and weeks.
And weeks?
When you went into the meeting on August 11th, did you think that's what it was for? To give you an update?
Yes.
But your friend Corey Fleming had your back at first.
At the conclusion of the meeting, they let you know that you're their prime suspect.
Ms. Griffin.
I'll rephrase it.
I have about 20 minutes
At the
left.
conclusion of the meeting, did they make it known to you that you were suspect?
Oh, there's no question about that. Absolutely. Now, he used a lot of, I mean, you hear talk about how I'm in the circle and he can't get me out and this and that, but there's no doubt in my mind. There was no question in my mind what was going on.
And
I was going to leave it running, but I think that they will probably
Snapchat
be doing a lunch break soon. So
trying to.
I may just end it and then come back.
Yes.
And were you questioned about what clothing you were wearing?
I can't remember this. I can't remember if he showed me the whole video or he showed me a picture of it.
Why were you yelling?
I was definitely showed that information. I was definitely shown those clothes. In that meeting
Definitely.
on August the 11th.
And what clothes were you wearing?
The same ones you see in.
And you remember?
No shit, you were wearing the clothes in the video.
It was khaki pants.
And what kind of shirt?
It's a button down, short sleeve button down. I call it a dress shirt, but short sleeve button down dress shirt.
Like shirt you got there, but just short.
Just
sleeve.
like this, but short sleeve, and it was colored.
And what color was it?
Blue with some blue stripes.
And were you questioned about when you changed out of those clothes?
I was.
Why don't they, like, they're so needy? I'm watching a trial.
Did you have a follow-up?
He's on the stand, kids.
With Blanca about what you were wearing that day.
Absolutely.
And what was the purpose of the conversation with Blanca?
Well, they made an issue about that in that meeting, and I asked Blanca about those clothes that I'd had on earlier that day.
Did you ask her specifically about the blue shirt?
I asked her specifically about all the clothes.
Okay.
What I asked Blanca about specifically was, did she remember getting my clothes after she came back? When she came back to Moselle, did she remember getting my clothes? It's specifically what I asked her.
I see. And why were you asking her those questions?
Because on August the 11th, they had made an issue about me still wearing those clothes, not having changed clothes when I was in that.
How dare they?
That's why I went to block.
Ooh,
Did they ever ask you on August the 11th whether,
so rude, those police people.
ask you for those clothes? Can you produce the clothes? Did they ask you that?
No, they didn't.
Have they ever asked you for those clothes?
You mean the clothes that could prove your innocence? I wouldn't wait
As far
to
as
be
my
asked.
understanding goes,
I'd just
my
offer them
clothes
up.
were never an issue in this case until y'all figured out, as my lawyers figured out that there was no blood spatter on me.
Sir?
Is that objection, Your Honor?
Oh, he angry.
41402 and beyond in speculation.
It's a matter of public record. It's a matter of public record.
What is?
The issues with the shirt and the blood test.
Why didn't he just produce the clothes then?
In this case, yes.
Why didn't he just produce the clothes? Produce the missing clothes. It will prove your innocence.
I'm well aware that my clothes never became an issue in this case until my lawyers
Your lawyers weren't there for that interview.
proved that this blood spatter that they said I had on my shirt from my wife and my son was a lie, and that there was no blood on my shirt. And once they filed the documents and they proved that that was a lie, all of a sudden, the clothes I was wearing back on that day became an issue. And that's in the weeks
Ooh,
leading up to this trial.
oh my gosh. And I could just produce them. I could just hand them over.
Alec, after the
I could just offer them up,
Maggie and Paul were murdered on June 7th and 8th,
but I won't.
where did you stay and where did you keep clothes?
Right. Say that again, please.
Where were you staying overnight? Let me ask you this. Did you ever spend another night at Moselle after June 7th?
Never spent another night at Moselle.
Why not? Why not?
And the clothes were at my mom's house until I took care of them. So, I mean, allegedly, in my opinion.
Couldn't.
But I could suggest to my son that he go hunting there afterward. When he said, I don't want to, I said,
Where were you
why
staying?
not?
When we talked about
Why wouldn't you want to go hunt and
the
use
days and
guns
weeks,
where
the
your
week afterwards,
mom
where-
and
where
brother
you
were
staying?
just shot? That's
When
weird.
you got back from the
What's
lake,
wrong with you?
Peoria and Greenville.
Quit saying my town.
I stayed. All right, so when I got back from Greenville, so
Yes.
that would be so the first week, up until my dad's funeral, then, all right, so that'd be the second week. All right, so after I know Bus and I stayed with Grandma and Papa T as much as I could.
So we have a social media slogan. Yeah, that Greenville for like
Stayed with,
advertisement for tourism. But everybody's like, not this Greenville. Get the fuck
I stayed
away.
with my brother Randy. a
All of
lot.
Greenville right now is like, gross.
I stayed with my brother John a lot. Bus and I stayed at Edisto a little bit.
It is a very
And
freaking
then
cool
I
town.
really stayed with either my
But not for
brother
Murdaugh.
Randy and his wife Christy, or I stayed with my brother John and his wife Lizzie. And basically at that time, Buster worked for Wild Wing at that time, and they've been so kind to him and they let him be off just for a ridiculous amount of time. They were so good to him. So he stayed with me. When he had to go back to work, he would stay at my brother John and Lizzie's because it was close. So I would stay with Randy and Christy in Hampton. when Buster was there, I would almost always go to John and Lizzie's when Buster was there. I would go to John and Lizzie sometimes when Buster wasn't there. But Johnny Parker, one of my partners, had a guest house his mother-in-law had lived in when she was sick. That's really, it's right at the foot of Randy's drive. It's 100 yards, 70 yards from Randy's house. And I was going to move into that house until we figured out where I could live. So I had clothes there. I had clothes at Randy's. I had clothes at John Marvin's. I had clothes at Chichesi, which is, I think you heard Buster talk about Chichesi's, like where we went to the river, and I had clothes there. I had clothes in Somerville. And I still had clothes at Moselle.
But the prosecution right now is like,
Yes, sir.
Last question.
No, this, so were your clothes spread out? A lot of different places.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Break for lunch. And return
woohoo, perfect timing.
in an hour and 15 minutes.
Perfect timing. All right. Thank you guys for being here for now. Later on, I am probably going to be watching the Netflix documentary tonight. It won't be here. It'll be in a secret location. But I'm going to come back after lunch. I may have to mute and go in and out because, you know, I intentionally birthed two people, so gotta take care of them.
2:40? Recess till 2:40.
2:40. So we'll be back about 2:45 because I'm sure that they will be late. All right. Let's see if cross-examination happens today. What do you guys think? I don't know, man. I've calmed down a little bit, but these people can still go to hell. All right. 2:45 Eastern Standard Time. I forgot to say, in case you haven't figured it out already. And I'll go now and create another StreamYard so nobody has to do math. All right. You guys have a good day. Don't kill your family.